Chapter 51. As he spoke, a gentle breeze circulated around the young elf. His long green hair and green robes fluttered in the breeze. His feet tapped on the boulder, and his body flashed, crossing 100 meters and arriving in front of Emo Xiaobai. So fast, Emo Xiaobai looked at the young elf standing in front of him, his pupils constricting. Luckily, this guy didn't have any ill intentions. Otherwise, he would be in danger. Emo Xiaobai rejoiced. The young elf still had a smile on his face. He looked at Emo Xiaobai and asked, "Friend, what's your name?" Emo Xiaobai. The young elf was stunned. Then, his smile became even brighter. "That's a good name, Emo Xiaobai." If the young elf didn't look at Emo Xiaobai more kindly than before, he would have thought that the young elf was mocking him. He asked, "What about you? Who are you?" "Move Forest." Emo Xiaobai was stunned. His eyes widened as he looked at the handsome young elf. "You Move Forest?" Ranked second on the Dragon Phoenix leaderboard, level 1-2 apertured young elf. He was a direct descendant of the Mu family. No wonder the shock in Emo Xiaobai's eyes faded. Just by looking at his clothes, this young elf was no ordinary person. Moreover, his terrifying speed was indeed terrifying. Mu Forest smiled. "I'm sure you've heard of my name." Emo Xiaobai nodded. "Yes, I've heard of it." He tried his best to control himself. He didn't add, "Your name is good too." Mu Forest was much stronger than him. He was afraid of being beaten up. "I thought you were lost. I didn't expect you to be so skilled. You're able to easily kill a level 7-1 apertured magical beast with a level 5-1 aperture cultivation. Looks like even a level 8-1 aperture magical beast is no match for you." Mu Forest looked at Emo Xiaobai and smiled. "Looks like we might become classmates." Emo Xiaobai also smiled. "I hope so." Then, he looked at Mu Forest curiously. "Mu Forest, why are you in such a peripheral area? With your strength, you should be able to go deeper." Forest stretched lazily and said with a refreshing smile, "How can the points of ordinary magical beasts compare to the points of elite magical beasts and magical beast leaders?" Emo Xiaobai's pupil shrank. "So that's how it is. This guy is actually targeting the leader of the magical beasts. All right, it's time for me to continue my journey. Emo Xiaobai, good luck." As he spoke, a gentle breeze swirled around him, and he disappeared once again. He turned into a blur and ran deeper into the mountain range. Emo Xiaobai looked at the back of the figure in the forest, his eyes flashing slightly. He was really strong. Even though they were of the same age, he was still struggling to deal with an ordinary 1-apertured level 8 magical beast, but the other party had already set his sights on the leader of the magical beasts. His starting point was still too low, but with the Providence line, he should be able to catch up soon. Emo Xiaobai looked at the white light around him and felt confident. He continued his journey. 2 days later, Emo Xiaobai slowly advanced on the winding mountain path. He looked up at the top of the mountain. The air there was somewhat distorted, indicating the unusually high temperature. Above him was the crater of the volcano. Emo Xiaobai thought for a while and decided not to go up. After all, volcanoes were quite dangerous. Just then, he stopped in his tracks and looked at the top of the mountain with wide eyes. A dazzling red light drifted over the top of the mountain. Emo Xiaobai's heart raced and his breathing quickened. There was something good. Emo Xiaobai looked around. There was no path that led directly to the top of the mountain. But fortunately, the mountain was not too steep. There was still a certain slope. For Emo Xiaobai, climbing up was not a problem. His legs flashed with white light. He bent his legs slightly and stomped on the ground. Suddenly, his body soared into the air, rising nearly 5 meters. He stepped on a protruding rock, and at the same time, grabbed another rock with both hands. Just as he grabbed the rock, the boiling temperature made his expression change. He grinned and used his hands and feet to quickly climb up the mountain. In a few short breaths, Emo Xiaobai was close to the top of the mountain. Right at this moment, Emo Xiaobai's pupils suddenly constricted. He stopped climbing and even held his breath. He realized that there were 2 more rays of light in the air. One was dark and deep. Although the other ray of light was not as dazzling as the red light, it was still red. Danger? Mo Xiaobai hesitated for a moment. But then, he gritted his teeth and his eyes flashed with determination. If he did not even take a look, he would not be satisfied. At most, he would just take a look and run. After making up his mind, Mo Xiaobai endured the heat from his hands and slowly climbed towards the crater. Soon, he reached the edge of the crater. He looked at the ray of light above. According to the distance, the black ray of light was on the other side and did not move. Mo Xiaobai licked his lips. He felt his mouth dry. Then, he took a deep breath and calmed his beating heart. He slowly poked his head out from the edge of the crater. The crater was reflected in Mo Xiaobai's eyes. He was at the edge of the slope. Above him was a circular platform about 5 meters wide. In the middle of the circular platform, there was a depression, and there was a heat wave rising into the sky. Presumably, there was magma below. Mo Xiaobai saw that both the black ray of light and the 2 red rays of light were in the crater. The dazzling red ray of light was on his side. The other red ray of light and the black ray of light were intertwined on the other side of the crater. He looked at the deep black ray of light and could not help but twitch his mouth. He felt like retreating. It looked like it was not to be trifled with, however. Mo Xiaobai looked at the dazzling red ray of light again. Mo Xiaobai had only seen the dazzling red ray of light once. That was when he discovered the void treasure in the Greystone Hills. He really did not want to give up. He gritted his teeth and crawled his body, slowly climbing up the circular platform. The scorching temperature of the ground burned Mo Xiaobai's hands and body, causing his handsome face to turn red and sweat to drip from his forehead. He slowly exhaled and then slowly crawled toward the inner edge of the circular platform. Soon, he reached the inner edge of the platform. The crater was about 100 meters in diameter. Mo Xiaobai felt suffocated the moment he got close. The temperature was so high that even the air seemed to be burning. He slowly poked his head out and looked in the direction of the black ray of light. There was a cave about 5 meters in diameter on the wall of the crater. There was a protruding platform outside the cave. At this moment, an enormous blazing salamander was crawling on the platform with its eyes closed. This blazing salamander looked completely different from an ordinary blazing salamander. Its body was at least 7 meters long. Its body was covered in black scales that flickered with a dark red light. Mo Xiaobai only glanced at it. His pupils contracted violently and his scalp went numb. He held his breath and quietly retracted his head. Black Scale, Blazing Salamander, the leader of the magical beasts. Chapter 52. Who would have thought that there would be a magical beast leader here? Mo Xiaobai held his breath, not daring to make a sound. Mo Xiaobai wasn't even sure if he could defeat a magical beast leader of the same level. But this black scale fiery salamander's aura was too strong. It was already 1 apertured level 8. If he was discovered, Mo Xiaobai wasn't even sure if he could escape. Luckily, this black scale fiery salamander seemed to be resting. Mo Xiaobai calmed his beating heart, then stuck his head out to take another look. The black scale fiery salamander still didn't open its eyes. He licked his lips, gathered his courage, and slowly stuck his body out to look at where the dazzling red light was. About 10 meters below him, on the inner wall of the crater, there was an ordinary-looking, protruding rock. This rock was much smaller than the one the black scale fiery salamander was crawling on. It was about 2 meters long and 1 meter wide. There were many such protruding rocks on the inner wall of the crater. Behind a rock was a brown rock wall. This rock wall was no different from the surrounding rock walls, and the red light was gathered on that ordinary-looking rock wall. Thump, thump, thump. Mo Xiaobai could even hear his own heartbeat. He slowly retracted his body and crawled on the ground, trying his best to calm his excitement. He couldn't be more familiar with this scene. He was very confident that there was a void treasure there, a dragon-grade void treasure. If he could get his hands on this void treasure, his strength would probably increase by a lot in a short time. He might even be able to catch up with Yin Shui and Mu Forest, who were ranked at the top. But Mo Xiaobai's eyes flashed, and he looked at the black scale fiery salamander that was crawling and resting. The void treasure was too far away from the protruding rock. If he suddenly jumped down, there was a high chance that he would be discovered by the black scale fiery salamander. If he was discovered outside the crater, he might be able to escape, but if he jumped onto the rocks and was discovered, he would be dead. Mo Xiao pursed his lips and glanced at the black scale, blazing salamanders in the distance from time to time. Would this fellow leave this place? For example, going out to hunt for food at night, and then sneak in when it leaves its nest? However, the premise of this plan was that he had to keep an eye on the black-scale fiery salamander to know when it would leave its nest, which meant that he had to be nearby. Mo Xiao looked around the volcano. There was no place to hide. At night, if he didn't hide in this area, there was a high chance that he would be surrounded by a large number of magic beasts. Even if he wasn't surrounded by a large number of magical beasts, if the black-scale blazing salamander was really looking for food, wouldn't he be delicious enough nearby? Mo Xiao silently crossed out this plan. Although the void treasures were precious, they only had one life. Mo Xiao suppressed the greed in his heart and continued to think. Soon after, Mo Xiao's eyes lit up as he came up with a new plan. Although he couldn't defeat the black-scale blazing salamander, it didn't mean that no one among the candidates could. The image of the elegant noble from the wood forest surfaced in Mo Xiao's mind. Wasn't that fellow looking for the leader of the magical beasts? Why not tell him the location of the leader of the magical beasts and let him deal with the black-scale blazing salamander? The others didn't have a thread of destiny and wouldn't discover that there was a void treasure hidden in this ordinary rock wall. He could even make a deal with the wood forest. After all, he had provided the coordinates of the leader of the magical beasts to the wood forest. It wouldn't be too much to ask for, would it? From the looks of the wood forest, he shouldn't be a stingy person. Otherwise, the wood forest would have already snatched his loot when they met previously. Not only could he obtain the void treasure, he could also get a share of the black-scale blazing salamander's extraordinary materials. It was killing two birds with one stone. The corners of Mo Xiao's mouth turned up in a smile. This plan wasn't bad. Soon after, the smile on Mo Xiao's face froze as he thought of a problem. He had no way of contacting the wood forest in the void domain. The last time he met the wood forest was 2 days ago. Who knew where he had run off to now? If the wood forest had run to a deeper area, then Mo Xiao wouldn't be able to find him at all. Thinking of this problem, Mo Xiao rubbed his forehead, feeling a headache coming on. He glanced at the dazzling red light above the void treasure, then looked at the black scale blazing salamander. Afterward, he gritted his teeth and made up his mind. He would first look for the wood forest. If he really couldn't find it, then he would wait until his cultivation reached 2 apertures before coming back for the void treasure. In any case, the void treasure wouldn't run away. It was better to be a little late than to be rash and lose his life. After making up his mind, Mo Xiao crawled his body and slowly retreated. He slowly climbed down the slope of the volcanic cone and arrived at the mountain path. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. His handsome face was already red from the scorching heat of the volcanic crater, and there was also a lot of dust on it. After taking out some water from his spatial ring to wash his face, Mo Xiao moved in the direction of the wood forest 2 days ago. Half a day later, Mo Xiao was hurrying in a wilderness full of tall yellowish-brown rocks. Boom! Hiss! Just then, Mo Xiao heard a roar and a roar. He paused and looked in the direction of the roar and the roar, his eyes widening slightly. Someone was fighting. Before Mo Xiao had time to think, he heard the sound of scattered footsteps. At the same time, he saw streaks of deep black and red light intertwining and appearing in Mo Xiao's fate line. Mo Xiao even saw a gigantic red, blazing giant spider flash past through the cracks of the rocks. When Mo Xiao saw the blazing giant spider, his expression changed dramatically. The hair on his back stood on end, and he broke out in a cold sweat. His scalp went numb. The blazing giant spider with red flames, the leader of the magical beasts. Mo Xiao didn't even think as he turned around and hid behind a 2-meter-tall boulder not far away. He was a little confused. What day was it today? 2 magical beast leaders in a row. Furthermore, this magical beast's leader wasn't sleeping. It was sprinting. Mo Xiao swallowed his saliva and glanced in the direction of the red scorching spider. The blazing giant spider was extremely fast. It moved quickly in the wilderness filled with boulders and rushed past Mo Xiao by about 50 meters to his left. It was in a hurry and did not notice Mo Xiao Bai. Seeing the blazing giant spider rush past, Mo Xiao Bai breathed a sigh of relief and felt his body go weak. Fortunately, he hadn't been discovered. Just then, a blue figure appeared in front of Mo Xiao Bai's eyes. His eyes widened again. This was Mo Xiao Bai's eyes were filled with shock. The girl he saw in the square? The girl with short black hair, wearing blue leather armor, tapped her long legs on the ground and rocks in the wilderness. She was even faster than the blazing giant spider. She held a blue longbow in her hand. Her right leg stepped on a boulder and her body shot into the air. Her short hair fluttered in the wind, revealing her delicate face. Her icy blue eyes were cold and sharp. She held the bow in her left hand and drew the bowstring with her right. Frost condensed in her hand, forming an ice arrow. Swoosh! As her right hand released the bowstring, the ice arrow left the bow and turned into an icy blue stream of light, shooting into the body of the red scorching spider that was dozens of meters away. The red scorching spider screamed miserably after being hit by the arrow. Its running body staggered and crashed into a huge rock. Only then did Mo Xiao Bai discover that the red flame blazing spider had many wounds on its body, and the wounds were covered in ice. Ice elemental control? Hunting down the leader of the magical beasts. Mo Xiao Bai's eyes narrowed. He instantly understood the short-haired girl's identity. Number 1 on the Dragon Phoenix leaderboard, a direct descendant of the Yin family, Yin Shui. Chapter 53. The red scorching spider's body stiffened after crashing into the boulder. At this moment, Yin Shui drew her bow again. An icy blue light flashed on her right hand, and 3 ice arrows appeared on the bow at the same time. Pist, pist, pist. The 3 ice arrows whistled sharply as they spun toward the red scorching spider. They hit its original wound and pierced through its body. Hiss! The red scorching spider's body trembled, then slowly fell to the ground. Yin Shui landed lightly on the ground and walked toward the red scorching spider. At this moment, she paused and suddenly turned to look in Mo Xiao Bai's direction. She gripped her bow tightly and said coldly, "Come out." Mo Xiao Bai was looking at the red scorching spider's corpse from behind the boulder. His heart skipped a beat when he felt Yin Shui's cold gaze. He had been discovered. He looked at the faint gray light around Yin Shui and was silent for a moment. Then he walked out. He smiled innocently and said, "I was just passing by. I didn't expect a magical beast leader to appear, so I had to hide." Yin Shui's icy blue eyes swept across Mo Xiao Bai. After sensing Mo Xiao Bai's cultivation, she paused. However, she didn't ask further. She put away her bow and nodded lightly. "It's fine now." With that, she stopped paying attention to Mo Xiao Bai and continued walking toward the red scorching spider's corpse. At the same time, the faint gray light around her slowly dissipated and turned white. Mo Xiao Bai saw the white light around Yin Shui and heaved a sigh of relief. He looked at the red scorching spider's corpse. At this moment, the red scorching spider was extracting rare grade items. There were green ones, blue ones, and there was even a purple one in Mo Xiao Bai's size. The corner of his mouth twitched. A rare grade item. How envious. It was a pity that he couldn't defeat the magical beast leader. Otherwise, that black scale scorching salamander. Oh, right. Mo Xiao Bai's eyes lit up. He looked at Yin Shui and then looked at the white light around her. He pursed his lips and began to think. He might not be able to find it in the wood forest, but this guy should be strong enough to kill the black scale, blazing salamander. Moreover, she didn't seem to have any intention of snatching his things. Should I look for her? Mo Xiao Bai's eyes flickered with hesitation. Let's wait and see. Mo Xiao Bai watched as Yin Shui processed the items from the red scorching spider. After a while, Yin Shui stood up, turned around, and walked away. She didn't even look at Mo Xiao Bai. Mo Xiao Bai was stunned by Yin Shui's decisiveness. He hurriedly called out, "Student, please wait." Yin Shui paused. She turned around and looked at Mo Xiao Bai expressionlessly. Mo Xiaobai looked at Yin Shue's expressionless face and sweated inwardly. This person wasn't easy to get along with. He smiled as gently as possible and said, "Student, I know the location of a magical beast leader." Hearing this, Yin Shue's ice-blue eyes rippled. She turned to face Mo Xiaobai. After a moment of silence, she said, "I'm Yin Shue. What's your name?" Mo Xiaobai. Student Mo Xiaobai, what type of magical beast leader is it? A one-apertured level 8 black scale, scorching salamander. Yin Shue's expression changed slightly. She looked at Mo Xiaobai and asked, "What do you need?" Huh? Mo Xiaobai was dumbfounded. He didn't quite understand what Yin Shue meant. Yin Shue spoke again. "Tell me the location of that black scale, scorching salamander. What do you want in return?" Mo Xiaobai looked at Yin Shue in surprise. This person looked difficult to get along with, but she was actually quite principled. She actually offered to pay him. He was silent for a moment. Looking at Yin Shue, he smiled and said, "How about we split the loot 50-50? Yin Shue immediately shook her head. "No. Other than me and Mu Sunlin, no one else among the candidates can hunt a level 8 black-scaled blazing salamander. You can't go to Mu Sunlin's current location, so the only person you can choose to work with is me. I'm the key person in the hunt, so I want 80% of it." After a pause, Yin Shue glanced at Mo Xiaobai. "Of course, you can also choose not to work with me. In that case, if I can't find that black-scale scorching salamander, I can look for other magical beast leaders. You won't be able to kill that black-scale scorching salamander, so you won't gain anything." Saying this, she looked at Mo Xiaobai quietly. Mo Xiaobai. Looking at Yin Shue's expressionless face, he fell silent. This person was so shrewd. She was right. She didn't even know that Mo Xiaobai's goal wasn't the loot from the black-scale scorching salamander. His goal was the void treasure. If possible, he hoped to immediately obtain the void treasure. That way, perhaps his ranking in this trial would be able to rise by another level. Even if he didn't believe what Yin Shue said, that he couldn't go to Wood Forest now, he really couldn't find Wood Forest now. The most convenient partner for him to work with was, of course, her. Mo Xiaobai exhaled, then said, "You get 70% and I get 30%. Yin Shue looked at Mo Xiaobai. After a moment of silence, she nodded. "Take it as compensation for scaring you when I chased the red flame giant spider just now." Mo Xiaobai, he really wanted to say that he wasn't scared. But after thinking about it, he decided that there was no need to make things difficult for the treasure, so he swallowed his words. He said, "Come with me." Mo Xiaobai led Yin Shue in the direction of the black-scale fiery salamander. With the addition of a super bodyguard, Yin Shue and Mo Xiaobai could now do whatever he wanted in this area. One aperture grade. 8 magical beasts couldn't even block one of her arrows. Even elite magical beasts were the same. As for the extraordinary materials dropped by the magical beasts, Mo Xiaobai could only watch as Yin Shue put them away. He was very envious. In just a few hours, Mo Xiaobai and Yin Shue arrived at the crater from before. Mo Xiaobai glanced up and said, "That black-scale fiery salamander is inside the crater." Yin Shue looked up at the crater, then at Mo Xiaobai. She said softly, "Find a place to hide. Don't get caught in the crossfire." Hearing this, Mo Xiaobai's heart warmed slightly. He didn't expect this person to be so warm-hearted on the outside. Yin Shue took out her longbow and added, "Otherwise, it'll be very troublesome to save you." Mo Xiaobai, he didn't reply. He looked around and followed the mountain path to the opposite side of the blacklight. He found a rock and hid behind it. Seeing that Mo Xiaobai had hidden himself, Yin Shue's icy blue eyes flashed sharply. She held her longbow, and her slender legs flashed with white light. Stepping on the slope of the volcanic cone, she dashed up the crater in a flash. Standing on the circular platform of the crater, Yin Shue's icy blue eyes scanned the inner wall. Her gaze immediately stopped on the black-scale fiery salamander that was crawling on a huge rock. The black-scale fiery salamander suddenly opened its eyes. Its dark red vertical pupils were cold and tyrannical. It raised its head and stared at Yin Shue. Roar! It stood up and roared angrily at the intruders. Chapter 54. After the roar, the black-scale fiery salamander's 4 sharp claws grabbed the uneven dark brown inner wall and climbed out of the crater. In the distance, Yin Shui held her bow in her left hand and an ice arrow in her right. Her icy blue eyes stared sharply at the black-scale fiery salamander as she slowly drew her bow. At this moment, she looked down at the boiling magma below. Her eyes flashed, and she paused for a moment. She didn't release the bowstring until the black-scale fiery salamander climbed onto the circular platform. Chi! The ice arrow streaked across the hot air, bringing with it waves of white steam and a sharp sound as it pierced through the air. It shot towards the black-scale fiery salamander that had just climbed onto the platform. Roar! Just as the ice arrow was about to hit the black-scale fiery salamander, it suddenly roared and spat out a head-sized fireball from its mouth. Boom! The fireball collided with the ice arrow and exploded. Waves of fire splashed everywhere, and the white mist on the ice arrow became more obvious. Cracks could be seen on the ice arrow, as if it was slowly melting. Then, the black-scaled, blazing fire salamander lowered its head and dodged it. After dodging the ice arrow, the black-scale fiery salamander opened its hideous mouth. Dark red light flashed deep in its throat as it spat out fireballs one after another. Whoosh! 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 The fireballs streaked across the air, bringing with them scorching waves as they shot towards Yin Shui. After the fireballs, the black-scale fiery salamander also strode forward with its thick and powerful limbs. Its huge body turned into a black shadow as it rushed towards Yin Shui. As the fireballs approached, Yin Shui's body flashed with white light. Her slender legs pushed off the ground, and she quickly moved down the crater. While dodging the fireballs, she drew her bow and shot arrows. Chi! 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 Her right hand seemed to have turned into a phantom as ice arrows condensed and shot out. The ice arrows filled the air and shot towards the black-scale fiery salamander with white steam. Although the black-scale fiery salamander kept dodging, it was still hit in the left front knee by one of the ice arrows. Chi! The ice arrow pierced through the tough skin of the black-scale blazing salamander, leaving behind a bloody hole that was covered in frost at the same time. After being hit by the ice arrow, the black-scale blazing salamander slowed down and let out a roar. It opened its mouth again and spat out fireballs at Yin Shui. Yin Shui's body flashed on the slope, dodging the fireballs. Every fireball landed on the ground with a roar. Waves of fire shot out in all directions, and cracks appeared on the rocks. Yin Shui's beautiful short hair was blown away by the airwaves. Her beautiful face was expressionless as she returned fire while dodging. In a short moment, the black-scale fiery salamander had a few more wounds. The new wounds were covered in frost, while the frost on the old wounds melted and fresh blood flowed out. As its injuries worsened, the black-scale, blazing salamander's movements became slower and slower. It roared furiously and wanted to attack Yin Shui, but its fireballs couldn't touch Yin Shui's nimble body. In the end, its origin power was completely exhausted, and it couldn't even spit out fireballs. It could only chase after Yin Shui with its clumsy and injured body. Mo Xiaobai hid behind a rock and watched the distant battle without moving, his eyes wide open. Although this woman is a bit cold, she's really strong. That leader-level black-scale, blazing salamander was almost being toyed with in the palm of her hand. As expected of a two-aperture genius, Mo Xiaobai sighed in admiration. After being injured, the black-scale, blazing salamander had no chance of turning the tables. A dozen or so seconds later, an ice arrow pierced through the wound on its neck, and it fell to the ground with a wail. Yin Shui landed on the ground and exhaled slightly. She then turned to Mo Xiaobai, who was peeking out from behind a rock. "You can come out now." "Oh." Mo Xiaobai came back to his senses and hurried over. He glanced at Yin Shui's delicate white face and realized that she hadn't even broken out in a sweat during such an intense battle. How terrifying! Mo Xiaobai sighed in amazement. Then, he turned to look at the black-scale, blazing salamander's corpse with anticipation in his eyes. He had 30% of the loot. The black-scale blazing salamander was in the process of extracting extraordinary materials. Its corpse seemed to have been disintegrated by an invisible and vast power. Black scales, thick white bones, eyes, teeth, scarlet heart, and so on. Most of its flesh and bones had withered, and all the energy had been absorbed by a small part of its body. This small part flickered with green light, blue light, and even a wisp of purple light. Mo Xiaobai stared at the purple light and discovered that it was the scarlet heart of the black-scale blazing salamander. There was a red light flickering within the heart, as if there were flames burning within. It was obvious at a glance that it wasn't an ordinary item. Additionally, there was a pile of origin crystals lying quietly among the extraordinary materials. After the black-scale blazing salamander had extracted the extraordinary materials and origin crystals, Yin Shui turned to Mo Xiaobai with an expressionless face. "I only want the heart and scales. The rest is yours." Mo Xiaobai smiled. "I have no objections." The remaining items, the pair of dark red eyes and 2 sharp teeth, were all extraordinary materials at the rare level. There were also a number of elite extraordinary materials. To be honest, he had only led the way and watched the show from the sidelines. He had already profited greatly by obtaining so many things. Yin Xuan nodded and put away the flaming heart and the black scales. And Mo Xiaobai, on the other hand, put away the rest of the items. After dealing with the spoils of war, Yin Shui glanced at Mo Xiaobai. "Are there any more demonic beast leaders?" Mo Xiaobai, he was speechless. Was this woman addicted to killing demonic beasts? How can it be so easy to run into a demonic beast leader? Yin Shui nodded and said without hesitation, "Goodbye." With that, she turned around and disappeared from the mountain path in a flash of white light. And Mo Xiaobai, he looked at Yin Shui's back as she disappeared around the corner. He touched his handsome face in confusion. He frowned slightly and couldn't help but mutter, "Strange, my invincible charm actually lost its effect." And Mo Xiaobai shook his head and didn't think too much about it. He slowly walked in the direction that Yin Shui had left and circled the area. After confirming that Yin Shui had left and that there were no other candidates nearby, Mo Xiaobai's eyes were filled with excitement and anticipation. It was finally done. He quickly climbed up the platform of the crater and looked at the dazzling red light. His heart was thumping wildly. The void treasure. Mo Xiaobai took a few steps and arrived above the red light. He lowered his head to look at the interior of the volcano. About 200 meters below him was churning lava, and the inner wall of the void treasure was only 10 meters away from him. He exhaled and suppressed his excitement. Then he grabbed onto the protruding rocks and cracks and slowly climbed up to the protruding rock. Although the temperature of the inner wall was extremely high and it hurt Mo Xiaobai's hand, it didn't affect his good mood. In front of him, the red light gathered. He suppressed his excitement and reached out his hand to press on the area where the red light gathered. Just like last time, a spatial fluctuation spread out. It really was the void treasure. Mo Xiaobai's lips curled upwards. He didn't know if it was because of his excitement or because of the heat, but his face was red. With one step, Mo Xiaobai stepped into the spatial door. He felt his vision blur, and he appeared in a small white space. In front of him was a pile of treasures. Orange, gold, all sorts of colors flashed. Chapter 55. Mo Xiaobai's eyes widened as he looked at the glowing items, and his heart skipped a beat. So many treasures. And orange? An epic item. He excitedly walked over to the pile of items and picked up the item that was flashing with orange light. It was a fruit about the size of a fist. It was transparent with a white pattern flickering in the middle, and its appearance was quite unusual. Mo Xiaobai stared at this strange fruit and frowned slightly. This fruit. Then his body trembled as he recalled an article he had read a year ago. He stared at this fruit with wide eyes. Origin fruit. This was an origin fruit. A few years ago, this type of fruit had been auctioned off at an auction. It was called an origin fruit, and after eating it, the pure origin power within would allow the consumer to greatly increase their cultivation without any side effects. The origin fruit auction off at that auction had 3 white patterns and was a grade 3 origin fruit. It was said that was a treasure obtained from a nightmarish grade 3 void domain. At the time, that origin fruit was fought over by many large families, and in the end, it was sold for 800,000 grade 3 origin crystals. Converted to grade 1 origin crystals, it was almost 80 million. This price was enough to buy a decent house in a large city. Mo Xiaobai looked at the origin fruit in his hand, his breathing ragged. Although the origin fruit in his hand was grade 1, and its price should be slightly lower than a grade 3 origin fruit, it shouldn't be a problem to buy a house in a small town, right? Like his own house? Mo Xiaobai's fingers trembled slightly when he thought about the origin fruit in his hand that was almost as valuable as his own house. Moreover, this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that, with this grade 1 origin fruit, his cultivation would increase by a large margin. This would greatly reduce the gap between him and those geniuses. Phew! Mo Xiaobai exhaled slowly, trying his best to calm his excited heart. Don't rush, don't rush. In any case, everything here was his. Mo Xiaobai carefully put away the origin fruit and continued to look at the treasures on the ground. The object flickering with golden light was an origin skill crystal. Mo Xiaobai picked up the origin skill crystal and placed it between his eyebrows. Instantly, streams of information entered Mo Xiaobai's mind. Soon, Mo Xiaobai opened his eyes wide, revealing an excited expression. This was actually a passive origin skill. Some origin skills didn't need to consume origin power. Instead, they needed to be cultivated. Once cultivated, the origin skills would exist passively and be permanently improved. Although it wasn't easy to upgrade a passive origin skill and required a large amount of resources and time, the increase in combat strength after upgrading it was permanent and was extremely rare and precious. This legendary origin skill called Breath of Life was a rare and precious passive origin skill. The Breath of Life could increase a life form's defense, endurance, strength, and vitality in all aspects. There were a total of 3 levels. Every level brought about a tremendous increase in strength. Just the first level was enough to increase his defense, endurance, and strength by 50%. Moreover, it would increase his vitality and speed up the recovery of his injuries. Although the Breath of Life was extremely useful to anyone, it was even more useful to Mo Xiaobai who possessed the Titan Force. The Breath of Life and the Titan Force could be stacked together. If he could cultivate the Breath of Life to the first level and combine it with his own Titan Force, Mo Xiaobai didn't dare imagine how strong he would be in terms of pure strength. Mo Xiaobai tightly grasped the origin skill crystal in his hand, his eyes flashing with excitement. He didn't think too much about it, and once again placed the origin skill crystal on his forehead. This time, he began to study the knowledge within the origin skill crystal. A moment later, the origin skill crystal became transparent and turned into powder before disappearing into Mo Xiaobai's hand. At the same time, Mo Xiaobai slowly opened his eyes. He gently rubbed his forehead, calming the swelling sensation from absorbing a large amount of knowledge. At the same time, his eyes were filled with distress. The method to increase the Breath of Life wasn't difficult. The origin skill recorded that it could be used to concoct Breath of Life medicine and increase it by circulating origin power. Of course, other body refining medicines could also be used as a substitute, but their effects wouldn't be as good as the Breath of Life medicine. There was also another method, which was to increase it by recovering from injuries. Only, where would he get the body refining medicine from? Not to mention the Breath of Life medicine. Could it be that he had to slash himself a few times? Mo Xiaobai's scalp went numb, and he silently erased this thought. He wasn't a masochist. He could only wait until he got out of here to cultivate. Mo Xiaobai sighed. Then, he looked at the ground once more. After seeing the bottle of medicine flickering with a golden light, Mo Xiaobai was stunned. Could it be? He hurriedly picked up the medicine on the ground and carefully observed it. The medicine looked like a jade green gem. and it even flashed with a resplendent white light. Mo Xiaobai opened the bottle cap, and a dense aura of nature surged out, shocking Mo Xiaobai. He stared at the medicine bottle with wide eyes and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Breath of life medicine. There was actually a set. Mo Xiaobai didn't know how many times he had been pleasantly surprised after entering the Void Treasure Trove. If he could use this breath of life medicine to raise his origin skill to the first level, then his combat strength would greatly increase. He pursed his lips, calmed his emotions, and carefully put the medicine away. Mo Xiaobai planned to finish looking at the items on the ground first. There was also a set of black leather armor on the ground. There were faint white runes inscribed on the leather armor, flickering with a blue light. It was a rare-grade heaven-forged leather armor set. Although this item was also very precious, Mo Xiaobai, who had already checked the epic and legendary items, didn't feel any fluctuations in his heart. He picked up the leather armor on the ground, and there was only a large pile of grade 1 origin crystals left on the ground. Mo Xiaobai put away the origin crystals and looked at the empty space in the void treasure trove. He exhaled and calmed his violently beating heart. The harvest this time was too great. As long as he digested this harvest, his combat strength would increase by several times. He might even be able to catch up to the top geniuses among the fledgling dragons and phoenixes. After calming down, Mo Xiaobai discovered that the small space hadn't changed much after he finished picking up the treasures in the Void Treasure Trove. He glanced at the spatial door behind him. It seemed that the Void Treasure Trove would only close after he left. Mo Xiaobai pondered for a moment and decided to go into seclusion here. He would first increase his strength before leaving. When the time came, he would enter the depths of the blazing wilderness, kill even more powerful magical beasts, and obtain even more herbs. The points he would obtain would definitely be more than what he had obtained now. After making up his mind, Mo Xiaobai no longer hesitated. He sat cross-legged on the ground and took out the grade 1 origin fruit. P.S. Thank you to book friend 1611242221741685. And Machine, pinching your fingers, you lack me in your life. Mo E. Jean, Black Brother 1973, book friend 20170109202641356. Hongwan Yuan. Leader's gift, thank you, boss. Chapter 56. Mo Xiaobai ate the origin fruit in a few bites. It tasted sweet and melted in his mouth, turning into waves of origin power that surged into Mo Xiaobai's body. Feeling the powerful origin power in his body, Mo Xiaobai quickly closed his eyes and began to use the origin refinement technique. The effects of the flawless elementary origin refinement technique were extremely powerful. The pure and vast origin power was absorbed into the white origin acupoint, and the origin acupoint was developed at an extremely fast speed. Due to the characteristics of the origin fruit's origin power, the origin acupoint's barrier was well protected and very stable during the development of the origin acupoint. There was no need to worry about it collapsing. Mo Xiaobai had been stuck at rank 5-1 aperture for a few days. Now, in just a few moments, he felt that he had touched the barrier of a breakthrough. The pure and vast origin power crashed against the barrier, and in just a few moments, Mo Xiaobai felt that the barrier had been broken through with a pop. What a fast speed! Mo Xiaobai could feel the speed of his breakthrough and was pleasantly surprised. He could not help but exclaim in surprise. Mo Xiaobai's cultivation speed did not slow down. Moments later, he reached the 1 aperture rank 6 barrier. The barrier was also like a thin piece of paper and was instantly broken through. Moreover, only a small portion of his boundless origin power had been consumed. Time passed by. Mo Xiaobai sat cross-legged on the ground, wholeheartedly using the origin refinement technique to absorb the vast origin power. His origin acupoint was being developed larger and larger, and finally, it was like a sun shining with a gentle white light. At this time, after the origin power had entered the origin acupoint, there was no way to continue developing it. Mo Xiaobai stopped. He looked at the origin acupoint that was like a white sun and was extremely excited. The pinnacle of one aperture, rank 9. He did not expect that just by eating a one aperture origin fruit, his cultivation would increase to the pinnacle of one aperture. Wasn't this speed a little too fast? It even exceeded Mo Xiao Bai's expectations. Although there was still a trace of origin power left in the origin fruit, Mo Xiao Bai had no way of increasing it any further. He had already reached the pinnacle of the first aperture. If he wanted to continue improving, he would need to sense the second origin aperture and then open the origin aperture to break through to the second aperture. Only then would he be able to continue improving. Perceiving the second origin aperture was much more difficult than perceiving the first origin aperture. It would take a lot of time, so Mo Xiao Bai did not continue cultivating. There wasn't much time left for the trial. Mo Xiao Bai looked at the first origin aperture, which seemed to be flickering with a gentle white light. He calmed himself down and slowly opened his eyes. He clenched his fists slightly and sensed his strength and origin power intensity. He couldn't help but reveal a satisfied smile when he discovered that they had both improved greatly. With his current strength, even if he couldn't compare to Yin Shui and Mu Forest, he should be at the top among the examinees, right? And it wasn't over yet. Mo Xiao Bai exhaled slightly, and the breath of life potion appeared in his hand. A glimmer of anticipation flashed through his eyes, and he drank the potion in one gulp. After the breath of life potion entered his mouth, it slid into his stomach. Mo Xiao Bai felt as if his body was being nourished by the power of nature. Every cell in his body felt as if dry soil had encountered a clear spring. This comfortable feeling caused his body to tremble uncontrollably. Mo Xiao Bai could feel that his already powerful physical body had begun to transform in an instant. He hurriedly collected his thoughts and began to circulate the breath of life origin skill, beginning to digest the breath of life potion more thoroughly. Mo Xiao Bai could vaguely feel that his muscles, bones, organs, every part of his body was slowly becoming stronger. The speed of this strengthening wasn't fast, but it was extremely gentle. He could feel that his explosive strength, endurance, defensive capabilities, and sensitivity were all slowly increasing. This feeling was very captivating. Even his Titan spiritual force seemed to be affected. He vaguely felt a vague illusion, just like the illusion when he first awakened his Titan spiritual force. However, the increase this time didn't seem to be enough to transform Titan strength, and the illusion was very blurry. After a few hours, the instant the breath of life potion's effects were completely digested, Mo Xiao Bai's body trembled, as if some kind of shackle had been unlocked. The strength of his body instantly rose to a whole new level. Mo Xiao Bai slowly opened his eyes, and a look of pleasant surprise flashed through them. The first level of the breath of life was a success. Mo Xiao Bai slowly stood up and clenched his hand into a fist. He could feel the enormous strength coming from his fist, but his heart was extremely calm. This feeling was as if his improvement was so great that it made him feel as if he was in control of everything. Of course, this kind of self-confidence was definitely an illusion. Mo Xiao Bai smiled slightly and stopped thinking about it. I've been here for about a day, right? It's time to go out. Mo Xiao Bai was about to walk out of the void treasure space when he thought of something and lowered his head to look at his somewhat damaged leather armor. Then, he looked around and saw that he was the only one in the small space. He didn't hesitate and took off his leather armor, washed his body with water, and changed into the rare-ranked heavenly cast leather armor set from before. The black leather armor set looked mysterious and profound, and it made Mo Xiao Bai look even more handsome. After putting on the leather armor, a wave of power came from it. Mo Xiao Bai felt that his explosive strength, endurance, and sensitivity had increased to a certain extent. Among them, the increase in his defense was the greatest. Even if his current physical strength was very strong, this increase couldn't be ignored. It was close to 20%. Mo Xiao Bai reached out to touch the leather armor that had a somewhat hard texture and sighed in his heart. As expected of a heavenly cast equipment, A rare ranked heavenly cast equipment was almost on par with a rare ranked normal equipment. With my current strength, even if I can't compare to Yin Shui and Move Forest, I shouldn't be too far off, right? It's time to go deeper into the area. Mo Xiao stepped through the spatial door. His vision blurred, and Mo Xiao arrived at the protruding rock. The blazing heat caused Mo Xiao to recover from the joy of his harvest. He lowered his head to look at the surging scarlet lava, and his heart trembled and the hair on his back stood on end. Mo Xiao couldn't help but lean back and stick close to the inner wall. After calming down, he slowly turned around and used his hands and feet to grab the cracks and protruding rocks on the inner wall and climb up to the platform of the crater. Standing firmly on the platform, Mo Xiao finally felt at ease. He looked at the sky. The sun was already close to the horizon, and the horizon was dyed with a touch of orange. It was going to be night soon. Mo Xiao narrowed his eyes and turned around to leave the crater. He followed the mountain path and left the volcanic area, picking up some herbs along the way. The strongest magical beast he encountered was only one aperture rank 8. Mo Xiao didn't even need to use origin power or origin skills. He killed it with a single slap. It was incomparably easy. Very quickly, he arrived at a desolate area covered in cracks. At this moment, he heard a somewhat familiar shout from not too far away. "Fatty, hold on. Help is about to arrive." Hearing this voice, Mo Xiao's eyebrows jumped, and he turned to look in the direction of the voice. Chapter 57. A few hundred meters away on the withered wasteland, 2 ewes were currently being attacked by 4 earthen yellow wild wolves. In the distance, there was an even larger wild wolf with even smoother yellow fur calmly watching them. The 2 ewes were the night spirit and rabbit human ewes who had been beaten up by Mo Xiao earlier. The khaki wolves that were attacking them were all at 1 aperture level 7, while the night spirit and rabbit human youths were only at 1 aperture level 6. The fact that the 2 of them could withstand the attacks of 4 wolves that were a level higher than them showed that they were not weak. However, both of them had several wounds on their bodies, and their stamina was draining at an even faster rate due to the wounds. Their foreheads were covered in sweat, and their breathing became hurried. The rabbit human youth, in particular, had a hideous claw mark on his chest. His leather armor was torn apart, and the flesh inside was torn apart, dripping with blood. Perhaps it was because he had lost too much blood, but his face was extremely pale. The night spirit youth situation was slightly better than his and did not suffer such serious injuries. However, he was already struggling to withstand the attacks. His gaze swept across the rabbit human youth, and his expression changed when he saw the latter's pale face. "Fatty, hold on. Help is about to arrive." The rabbit human youth slashed with his longsword, and a dim white light flickered on the longsword. With a sharp whistle, he forced back the wolves that were pouncing on him. His face was covered in sweat, and his eyes were filled with fear and despair. "Xiaofei, I'm afraid I can't hold on anymore. Why don't you try and see if you can break out of the encirclement?" The night spirit youth's expression changed. He glanced at the even more handsome and gigantic wolf outside the encirclement. It was an elite fiend, a 1 aperture level 7 elite fiend. A conflicted expression flashed across the night spirit youth's face. Then, he gritted his teeth and said, "No, I, Lu Xiaofei, am not the kind of person who would abandon his friends and run for his life. Hold on a little longer. I've already sent out the distress signal. Teacher will be here soon." "Xiaofei." The rabbit human youth's chubby face trembled, and he was about to cry. At this moment, the elite wild wolf that had been standing in the distance without attacking seemed to have grown impatient. Its entire body flashed with white light as it raised its head and roared. Hearing this elite wolf's roar, the 4 ordinary wolves seemed to have received some kind of blessing. Their originally tawny eyes flashed with a bloody light, and their aura became even more tyrannical. Their strength and speed were increased to a certain extent. One of the wild wolves pounced forward. When Lu Xiaofei saw the wolf's speed increase, his expression changed drastically. The long sword in his hand flashed with a white light as he slashed at the wild wolf. The wilderness wolf's sharp claws flashed with white light as it swatted towards Lu Xiaofei. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out. Lu Xiaofei's complexion changed. His body unconsciously retreated a few steps. Only then was he able to neutralize the terrifying power of the berserk wild wolf. Roar! At this moment, the other three wolves also roared and rushed over. Feeling the tyrannical aura of the wild wolves, Lu Xiaofei and the rabbit-human youth revealed a look of despair. At this moment, a black shadow rushed over from the side. After a muffled sound, a series of bone-cracking sounds rang out. The wild wolf that was pouncing towards a rabbit-human youth was sent flying at an extremely fast speed. On the way, it collided with two other wild wolves. The three wild wolves were sent flying at the same time, leaving behind a trail of blood in the air. The black shadow's movements didn't stop as it appeared beside the remaining wild wolf. Bang! With a muffled sound, the wild wolf was also sent flying at an extremely fast speed. It drew a parabola in the air before finally landing heavily on the ground dozens of meters away. Its body twitched twice before losing its vitality. Mo Xiaobai glanced at the several wild wolves on the ground. The two wild wolves that were sent flying by his kick had died on the spot. The remaining two that were sent flying still had a breath of life left and were wailing. He didn't pay attention to these few wild wolves. Instead, he glanced at the huge wild wolf in the distance. Its body was crouched low, its hair standing on end, and it was staring at him with a ferocious gaze. Elite rank? A trace of surprise flashed in his eyes, but he didn't pay it any mind. Mo Xiaobai turned his head to look at Lu Xiaofei and the rabbit-human youth, whose eyes were wide open and had a blank expression. He chuckled. What a coincidence. We meet the two of you again. Lu Xiaofei and the rabbit-human youth were originally stunned by Mo Xiaobai's attack. After seeing Mo Xiaobai's face, the two trembled and their eyes flashed with disbelief. Mo Xiaobai. Lu Xiaofei's voice trembled. He could vaguely feel the pain coming from the back of his head. Even his body couldn't help but tremble. He was about to say something when he looked behind Mo Xiaobai with a trace of horror in his eyes. Watch out behind you. Mo Xiaobai turned his head to look at the elite wild wolf that had turned into an afterimage and chuckled. He took a step forward and crossed 2 meters, dodging the attack of the elite wild wolf. Then, a cold light flashed in his eyes. His left foot stomped on the ground, creating a spiderweb-like mark on the ground. His right leg was like a long whip as it swept heavily at the waist of the elite wild wolf. Crack, crack, crack. A terrifying bone-cracking sound rang out. The elite wild wolf's spine was broken, and its waist was almost bent in half. Its body was sent flying, and it spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. Bang! Its huge body landed heavily on the cracked ground over 10 meters away. Its body trembled and lost all signs of life. Lu Xiaofei, the rabbit-human youth. The two looked at the corpse of the elite wild wolf in the distance. Their eyes were wide open, and their eyeballs were about to fall out of their sockets. The atmosphere instantly fell silent. The only sound that could be heard was the increasingly weak wails of the two heavily injured elite wild wolves. Mo Xiaobai turned his head to look at the two shocked people and smiled. What's wrong? The two heard Mo Xiaobai's voice, and their bodies trembled as they came back to their senses. They looked at Mo Xiaobai as if they were looking at a monster. How did you become so strong? Lu Xiaofei's face was full of disbelief. His voice was a bit shrill. Although Mo Xiaobai was indeed very strong, much stronger than them, they all knew that. But what was up with this monstrous strength? Mo Xiaobai had killed an elite 1-apertured level 7 wild wolf, whose strength was even higher than that of a normal 1-apertured level 8 magical beast with 1 kick. He didn't even use origin power. This was too magical. Lu Xiaofei and the rabbit-human youth found it hard to accept. Mo Xiaobai saw their expressions and chuckled. You're too weak. Lu Xiaofei, the rabbit-human youth. The two looked at Mo Xiaobai's relaxed appearance, and their hearts trembled. They silently looked away, not daring to meet Mo Xiaobai's gaze. Mo Xiaobai didn't pay attention to Lu Xiaofei and the rabbit-human youth. He finished off the two heavily injured wild wolves and began to deal with the elite wild wolves' corpses, picking up the extraordinary materials that had separated from them. Mo Xiaobai was a bit dissatisfied that the elite wild wolf had only separated from its pelt. It was a bit stingy. As he dealt with the extraordinary materials and corpses, he casually asked, "Why were you two so stupid as to be surrounded by wild wolves? And there was even an elite wild wolf?" Chapter 58. Hearing Mo Xiaobai's words, the dazed Lu Xiaofei and the rabbit-human youth's expressions changed. The rabbit-human youth's chubby face trembled as he said indignantly, "It's not like we wanted to be surrounded. Originally, our target was only 5 ordinary wild wolves with 1 aperture of level 7. With our strength, if we retreated while fighting, it might be dangerous, but we might be able to kill them all. Who knew that one of the wild wolves would evolve?" Lu Xiaofei, who was standing at the side, also had a look of dissatisfaction on his face. Originally, the two of them looked down on Mo Xiaobai, who came from a small town, thinking that he was just a country bumpkin. Although they had learned their lesson after being beaten up previously, they still had a grudge against him. Who knew that they would be saved by Mo Xiaobai this time? To the proud Lu Xiaofei, his feelings were complicated, and he even felt ashamed. However, Mo Xiaobai did not care about Lu Xiaofei and the rabbit-human youth's feelings. When he heard the rabbit-human youth's words, he looked at the two of them strangely. Suddenly evolved? These two unlucky kids. Mo Xiaobai could not help but sympathize with them. Their luck was too bad. Screech! At this moment, an eagle's cry was heard from afar. Mo Xiaobai and the rest turned to look in the direction of the sound. A black shadow quickly grew larger in the already dim sky. After a while, Mo Xiaobai saw what it was. It was a huge gray eagle, and there were a few people standing on the back of the eagle. Lu Xiaofei was pleasantly surprised. "It's the iron-feathered wind eagle. It must be teacher's mount." The rabbit-human youth's face was pale, but when he saw the iron-feathered wind eagle, he nodded excitedly. "Cough, cough, we're saved." As he was excited, the wound on his chest tore open again, and fresh blood flowed out. Soon, the iron-feathered wind eagle landed in front of them. Its 30-meter-long wings flapped, creating a gust of wind. Mo Xiaobai could not help but squint his eyes. He looked at the huge iron-feather wind eagle in awe. Such a huge, contracted beast. Its strength must be terrifying, right? In comparison, Lil Red looked like a child. Very quickly, the iron-feather wind eagle stopped in front of them. The people who were originally standing on the eagle's back also jumped down. One of them was a middle-aged merman with gray curly hair. There were fine wrinkles on his forehead, making him look like he had been through a lot. Behind the middle-aged merman were 3 boys and 2 girls. They seemed to be candidates as well. Mo Xiaobai discovered that these examinees were more or less injured. Among them, the barbarian boy with the most serious injury seemed to have broken bones in his right arm. His entire right arm was hanging by his side. After the middle-aged merman landed, his gaze swept over the corpses of the wild wolves on the ground. He frowned slightly when he saw the withered elite wild wolf. Then his gaze swept over Mo Xiaobai, Lu Xiaofei, and the rabbit-human youth. Finally, he looked at Lu Xiaofei and the rabbit-human youth and said, "You two were the ones who asked for help?" Lu Xiaofei hurriedly nodded. "Yes, teacher." The middle-aged merman nodded. "Then come over. I'll bring you back to the encampment." As he spoke, he looked at Mo Xiaobai with a gentle smile. "Killing an elite wild wolf in one hit. Your strength isn't bad. Student, you could consider our spiritual heart academy." Hearing the middle-aged merman's words, Lu Xiaofei, the rabbit-human youth, and the other candidates were all stunned. Then, they looked at Mo Xiaobai with envy and jealousy. Tianyu District Spiritual Heart College, one of the 3 major colleges. They didn't expect that a teacher from the Spiritual Heart College would specially invite Mo Xiaobai to join. They didn't even dare to imagine such treatment. However, when they heard the middle-aged merman say that Mo Xiaobai had killed the elite wild wolf with 1 strike The examinees who had been following the middle-aged merman looked at Mo Xiaobai with shock in their eyes. How could this handsome human youth possess such terrifying strength? Mo Xiaobai was also stunned. He didn't expect the middle-aged merman to be a teacher from the Spiritual Heart College. He smiled and nodded. "Thank you, teacher. I'll consider it seriously." The middle-aged merman saw that Mo Xiaobai didn't immediately agree, and a look of regret flashed across his eyes. Then he nodded and smiled. "Okay." After they got back on the back of the iron feather wind eagle, the middle-aged merman looked at Mo Xiaobai and smiled. "Oh right, the door deep in the blazing wilderness is open. If you want to go in, be careful." Hearing this, Mo Xiaobai, Lu Xiaofei, and the rabbit-human youth's pupils constricted. Lu Xiaofei exclaimed, "No wonder." The rabbit-human youth's face was filled with unwillingness. "I didn't expect the door to be open. No wonder that wild wolf had suddenly advanced. We're really unlucky." Mo Xiaobai was also extremely shocked. The void territory was connected to their universe and the demon universe. Since they were connected, there was naturally a channel, just like the entrance to their universe and the void territory. However, the entrance to their universe and the void territory was extremely stable, while the entrance to the demon universe and the void territory was unstable. It would appear from time to time, and most of the time, it was closed. As to why this was the case, no one knew. However, every time the door opened, the strength of the demons and beasts in the void territory would increase to a certain extent. Some beasts and demons with great potential would even evolve at this time. Moreover, more powerful beasts and demons would enter the void territory through the door. Furthermore, the door could not only be opened in the void territory. On planet Azure, the door had been opened several times by the Void God cult and other lunatics. Every time the door was opened, it was always a tragic event. In the most serious cases, cities and towns would be destroyed. No wonder the wild wolf suddenly evolved. Mo Xiaobai suppressed the shock in his heart and nodded to the teacher, smiling. "Thank you, teacher, for the reminder. I will be careful." The middle-aged merman nodded and smiled. Of course, the demons that come out of the door are not weak and have more points. If you're confident, you can go and take a look. Mo Xiaobai nodded. "Okay, I understand." He had such a plan in mind. The middle-aged merman chuckled. "Then good luck. I hope you can consider our Spiritual Heart Academy." As he spoke, he gently patted the neck of the iron feather wind eagle. The iron feather wind eagle let out a sharp cry, spread its wings, and soared into the sky. Seeing the iron feather wind eagle gradually become a black dot in the sky and then disappear, Mo Xiaobai breathed a sigh of relief. He looked into the depths of the blazing wilderness, and his eyes flashed with anticipation. What kind of beast would come out after the door opened? Let's go in and take a look. However, Mo Xiaobai looked at the setting sun on the horizon and the gradually darkening sky. He should find a place to stay for the night. Chapter 59. Mo Xiaobai traversed the wilderness and arrived at a mountain range. He found a remote area of the mountain that was full of cracks and used the demon hound's spine to cut out a small place for him to stay. With the increase in his cultivation level, especially the increase in his physical strength, Mo Xiaobai didn't feel too tired when he dug out a small shelter. Furthermore, his speed was much faster than before. Just like before, Mo Xiaobai used rocks to block up the cracks, leaving only a few gaps. When he was done, the sky outside had completely darkened. The silver light of the moon and stars shone on the mountain range. However, what surprised Mo Xiaobai was that above the silver light, there were traces of a strange purplish-black light. This Mo Xiaobai frowned slightly. This purplish-black light reminded Mo Xiaobai of the Umbra demon hound he had met before. The Umbra demon hound's aura was similar to this purplish-black light. It was extremely strange. Even the Umbra demon hound's blood was purplish-black. This was the color of demons. Roar! Woo! Hiss! Night fell. Perhaps it was because of the purplish-black light in the air. But Mo Xiaobai could clearly feel that these demonic beasts' roars were more violent than usual. Through the gaps, he could occasionally see shadows flitting by. Their strength ranged from 1 aperture level 6 to one apertured level 8. Their auras were violent and chaotic. In fact, for some reason, Mo Xiaobai suddenly felt that his mood had become somewhat impetuous and vexed. His heart trembled as he thought of something. It was said that after the door was opened, it would have a certain effect on the emotions of living beings. Could it be this? Was it because of the purplish black light? This was not even the most serious situation. It was said that the murmurs of powerful demons could even corrode the minds of living beings, causing their desires to be magnified and their personalities to be completely twisted, becoming strange and evil. He really did not know where these demons came from. Mo Xiaobai sighed inwardly. After observing for a while and confirming that there was no danger, Mo Xiaobai moved inside and closed his eyes to rest. The next morning, Mo Xiaobai opened his eyes and exhaled slightly. Because he had already broken through to the one aperture pinnacle, Mo Xiaobai could no longer cultivate and improve. He used the 1 hour of his daily cultivation to sense the second origin aperture. The result was obvious. 1 hour was definitely not enough. Mo Xiaobai was not disappointed. He stood up, walked to the crack, and looked outside. The sunlight shone on the ground, but the silver light had already disappeared. It was as if that strange purplish-black light had never appeared. There was no movement outside. Mo Xiaobai moved the stone away and walked out. Mo Xiaobai breathed in the air that had begun to heat up. He stretched his body and began to move towards the interior of the blazing wilderness. In the wilderness, in front of slightly raised hill, Mo Xiaobai looked at the black scale, blazing fire salamander outside the cave. It was completely black and had dark red eyes. It was a one-apertured, level 8 magical beast. Mo Xiaobai looked at the black scale, blazing fire salamander's dark red eyes. He licked his lips, a blazing light flashing in his eyes. He did not even have a right to fight the one-apertured, level 8 black scale, blazing fire salamander last time. But it was different now. Mo Xiaobai put his left hand on the hilt of the devil hound's spine and held it with both hands. He exerted force with both hands. Streaks of white light flashed and covered the pitch-black devil hound spine. Then, a fierce light flashed in his eyes. He stomped on the ground, and white light flashed on his legs. He dragged the heavy sword and charged toward the black scale, blazing fire salamander. Roar! The black scale, blazing fire salamander growled and opened its bloody mouth. A dark red light flashed in the depths of its throat. Fireballs shot toward Mo Xiaobai one after another. The heat from the fireballs made Mo Xiaobai's skin prickle. He stomped on the ground and used the swift movement technique. His body moved several meters horizontally and dodged the fireballs. Boom, boom, boom. The fireballs smashed into the ground behind Mo Xiaobai. Waves of fire surged. Mo Xiaobai could not dodge the fireballs. He swung his heavy sword and directly chopped the fireballs into pieces. After spitting out the fireballs, the black-scale blazing fire salamander also charged toward Mo Xiaobai. Its huge body was at least 10 meters long. Its stubby limbs even caused small cracks to appear on the ground. Soon, the two sides approached each other. Mo Xiaobai looked at the huge black-scale blazing fire salamander in front of him. He gripped his heavy sword with both hands and tensed up all his muscles. Triple slash. The devil hound spine drew a black sword shadow in the air and slashed toward the black scale blazing fire salamander. The black scale blazing fire salamander also roared and slapped out with its flashing white claws. Clang, clang, clang. 3 metallic sounds rang out. The black scale blazing fire salamander screamed and retreated a few steps. At the same time, blood spurted out from its right claw. After the triple slash, a hideous, bone-deep wound appeared on the black-scale, blazing fire salamander's claw. Mo Xiaobai did not hesitate at all after gaining the upper hand. He stomped his right foot on the ground. Thump! A footprint slightly sunk in the ground. His body instantly soared into the air, and he raised his heavy sword above his head. Mo Xiaobai looked down at the black-scale, blazing fire salamander with a cold, ferocious look in his eyes. Triple slash. 3 more black shadows streaked across the air. The devil hound's spine had landed squarely on the black scale, blazing fire salamander's head. A hideous wound appeared and blood gushed out. The terrifying force caused the black scale, blazing fire salamander's head to crash heavily on the ground. Roar! With a roar, the black scale, blazing fire salamander's forelimbs slid, wanting to retreat. At this moment, Mo Xiaobai turned his heavy sword around and pointed it downwards, stabbing directly into the wound on the black scale, blazing fire salamander's head. Swish! With a swish, the heavy sword pierced through the black scale, blazing fire salamander's head. Its body shook violently, its sharp claws leaving hideous marks on the ground. Mo Xiaobai was unmoved. He increased the strength of his heavy sword. After a few breaths, the black scale, blazing fire salamander stopped struggling. Its body twitched, and it lost all signs of life. Mo Xiaobai watched as the black scale, blazing fire salamander's body flashed with light. Its flesh began to wither, and transcendent materials began to seep out. Only then did Mo Xiaobai pull out his longsword. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, revealing a smile. It seemed that he was stronger than he had imagined. Just as Mo Xiaobai was waiting for the transcendent materials to seep out, a surprised and puzzled voice came from afar. Student Mo Xiaobai? Mo Xiaobai raised his eyebrows and turned to look in the direction of the voice. Mu Forest, who was dressed in a gorgeous green robe and looked like an elegant noble, was standing in the distance. When he saw Mo Xiaobai, his eyes widened. It's really you? Then he lowered his head and looked at the black scale, blazing fire salamander that was seeping out transcendent materials in front of Mo Xiaobai. His pupils constricted violently. Black scale, blazing fire salamander? P.S. Thank you, Chun Shensi, book friend 20170109202641356, Antelope Soul, and Lean Potato Stick for their tips. Thank you, big brother. Chapter 60. Mu Forest jerked his head up and stared at Mo Xiaobai. The elegant smile on his face disappeared and was replaced by disbelief. Mo Xiaobai, you killed this black scale fiery salamander. Black lines appeared on Mo Xiaobai's forehead when he heard this. He speechlessly said, "Is there anyone else here other than me?" Mu Forest was speechless. He was stunned by Mo Xiaobai's rhetorical question. Then he opened his mouth and asked blankly, "It's only been a few days. It's only been a few days, and your cultivation base has improved? Your combat strength? How did it improve so much?" Mo Xiaobai smiled and said, "I got lucky and got some good stuff." Some good stuff? When Mu Sunlin heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. Some good stuff could raise a person from 1-apertured level 5 to 1-apertured pinnacle and kill a 1-apertured level 8 demonic beast leader. He wanted such good stuff too. But seeing that Mo Xiaobai didn't explain further, he didn't ask any more questions. Just then, 3 figures approached quickly from behind Mu Forest. Mo Xiaobai glanced at the 3 people behind Mu Forest. He was surprised to find that they were all 1-apertured pinnacle and had powerful auras. The 3 people who rushed overlooked at Mo Xiaobai, then looked at the corpse of the magical beast leader, and their pupils shrank. A pretty mermaid girl exclaimed in a low voice, "Black-scaled, scorching salamander?" The way they looked at Mo Xiaobai had changed. Mo Xiaobai glanced at the 3 people and gave them a friendly smile as a greeting. Then he looked away and lowered his head to look at the transcendent materials. Mo Xiaobai frowned because he didn't see any purple light. This meant that there weren't any rare, transcendent materials here. Mo Xiaobai was a little disappointed. His luck wasn't too good this time. However, when Mo Xiaobai saw the diamond-shaped crystal shining with a blue light in the dried flesh, he was stunned for a moment before he smiled in surprise. A rare origin skill crystal. The value of this material was much higher than the average rare, transcendent material. Mo Xiaobai picked up the rare origin skill crystal in satisfaction. He placed the origin skill crystal on his forehead and checked the origin skill's information. Afterwards, he discovered that this origin skill called Fireball Chain could only be used if one had an innate affinity with fire. Mo Xiaobai revealed a regretful expression. He didn't have the talent of fire affinity, so he couldn't use this. However, Mo Xiaobai quickly revealed a smile again. Didn't his mother have fire affinity? Just as well, it could be a gift for his mother. Mo Xiaobai put away the origin skill crystal and began to process the other extraordinary materials. This included the black scales, heart, spine, teeth, a pool of sticky blood, and a pair of dark red eyes. There were rare grade and elite grade ones. All in all, this was a huge haul. The three examinees who were at the peak of one apertured looked on enviously from afar. At this moment, a night creature youth asked, "Young Master Mu, who is this student?" Mu Forest glanced at Mo Xiaobai and introduced him with a smile. "This is Mo Xiaobai." Mo Xiaobai nodded at them in a friendly manner. Then Mu Forest introduced the others. The night creature youth was called Ji Fei Bai, peak 1 apertured. He was a direct descendant of the Empire's famous Ji family. The mermaid girl was called Li Mu Er, a direct descendant of the Li family. Other than the two of them, there was also a quiet, delicate, and muscular rabbit youth called Kong Xiu Ran. He was a genius youth from an ordinary family in Tianyu City and was also at the peak of 1 apertured. Mo Xiaobai was a little surprised. He had seen these names on the Dragon Phoenix leaderboard before. They were all in the top 10. He did not expect them to be together. However, when the three of them heard Mo Xiaobai's name, they were not surprised at all. Mo Xiaobai guessed that they probably had not even flipped to the back of the Dragon Phoenix leaderboard. They probably did not know that he was the second last on the leaderboard. Mo Xiaobai did not mind and greeted them one by one. They also responded enthusiastically. Li Muer's voice was cheerful and lively. She said with a smile, "Mo Xiaobai is really strong. If I was alone, I could only defeat a 1 apertured rank, 8 demonic beast leader at most. It would be impossible to kill it." Ji Fei Bai and Kong Xiu Ran nodded. The three of them were about the same strength. However, Mo Xiaobai's cultivation was the same as theirs, but he could kill a 1 apertured rank, 8 demonic beast leader. This was enough to shock them. Mo Xiaobai smiled. "I was just lucky." After picking up the transcendent materials, he turned and walked to the cave at the bottom of the hill. It was the black scale, blazing salamander's lair. Seeing this, Mu Sunlin chuckled and said, "Classmate Mo Xiaobai, there wouldn't be anything good in this cave, right?" Even now, he was still brooding over Mo Xiaobai's some good stuff. Mo Xiaobai paused and looked at the crimson light floating out of the cave. He turned and smiled. "I have a feeling that there might be something good in there." Oh, hearing Mo Xiaobai's words, everyone was curious. The four of them followed Mo Xiaobai and entered the lair. There was a disgusting stench in the lair. Mo Xiaobai frowned slightly, but he didn't stop walking and continued to go deeper. The lair was about 20 meters long. Mo Xiaobai quickly reached the innermost part. At this moment, he saw a faint red light flickering around the corner, as if there was a flame burning. All the red light was gathering in the direction of the red light. He raised his eyebrows slightly and walked over. Behind him, Mu Forest and the others were stunned when they saw the faint red light. Their faces were filled with shock and uncertainty. Ji Feibai's mouth twitched. There can't really be some treasure, right? Not long after he finished speaking, Mo Xiaobai walked out from the corner with a palm-sized crimson mushroom in his hand. There was a faint purple light flashing on the mushroom. Mo Xiaobai raised the mushroom in his hand and gestured to move Forest and the others. He smiled slightly. Rare grade, blazing mushroom. It's not a bad thing, right? Move Forest. Li Muer. Ji Feibai. Kong Xiu Ran. The four of them looked at the blazing mushroom in Mo Xiaobai's hand. Their minds were filled with question marks. After a moment of silence, Mu Forest muttered in disbelief, "I really have something good?" The other three looked at Mo Xiaobai strangely. Their eyes were a little green. Kong Xiu Ran, who had been silent the whole time, was speechless. Mo Xiaobai, your luck is too good, isn't it? Mo Xiaobai looked at the slowly dissipating red light and smiled modestly. It's all right. Sometimes my luck is not bad. However, luck is too illusory and won't last long. In comparison, I think hard work is more important. Hearing this, Mu Sunlin and the other three nodded their heads in agreement. They didn't believe that Mo Xiaobai would always have such good luck. Who doesn't have good luck sometimes? It's just that their luck hasn't arrived yet. Mo Xiaobai kept the blazing mushroom, and the others walked out of the cave. The stench disappeared, and Mo Xiaobai and the others heaved a sigh of relief. Then Mu Forest thought of something. He looked at Mo Xiaobai and said, "Oh right, Mo Xiaobai. Did you hear that the door has opened?" Mo Xiaobai was stunned. He looked at Mu Forest. "You already know." Chapter 61. Seeing that Mo Xiaobai knew about it, Mu Forest smiled and said, "It seems that Mo Xiaobai already knows that the door opened in the scorching Rift Valley. We plan to go there to hunt stronger demons and magical beasts. If you're interested, why don't we go together?" Hearing Mu Forest's words, Mo Xiaobai was stunned. He frowned and thought for a while, then smiled and shook his head. "You guys go ahead first. I plan to walk around nearby before heading over." Walk around nearby? If we're late, the prey might be snatched away by Yin Shui. Hearing Mo Xiaobai's words, Mu Forest raised his eyebrows and looked at Mo Xiaobai in confusion. Yin Shui? A cold, short-haired girl appeared in Mo Xiaobai's mind. That guy's strength wasn't weak. But he smiled and said, "Since the door is open, there might be powerful magical beasts with 2 orifices inside. Yin Shui alone won't be enough." Hearing this, Mu Forest was stunned, then smiled. "That's true. Since the door has opened, there will definitely be magical beasts with 2 orifices. We'll just have to see how strong they are. I'm afraid we'll still have to work together." Saying this, he looked at Mo Xiaobai and smiled. "Then you'll have to hurry over. Otherwise, if we work together with Yin Shui, you won't get any benefits." Mo Xiaobai chuckled. "Don't worry, I'll definitely get there before you guys eat the meat." "Ha ha!" Mu Forest laughed and didn't say anything else. He nodded at Mo Xiaobai. "Since that's the case, we'll head over first." "Okay." Mo Xiaobai nodded. Mu Forest, Ji Fei Bai, and the others left and headed towards the blazing Rift Valley. Mo Xiaobai looked at the people in the forest of wood and pondered for a moment. He changed his direction slightly and continued moving. Of course, his direction was still the direction of the blazing Rift Valley. Of course, Mo Xiaobai wouldn't give up on the points from the powerful magical beasts in the blazing Rift Valley. However, he did not intend to travel with the people from the wood forest. After all, he had just said that his luck would not always be so good. If he found too many herbs along the way, it would be hard to explain. He was afraid that the wood forest team would be injured. Time flew by. There were only 3 days left until the end of the first Cries trial. Mo Xiaobai arrived at the blazing Rift Valley. The blazing Rift Valley was several kilometers wide and thousands of meters high. The temperature in the Rift Valley was extremely high. Mo Xiaobai could feel the intense heat just by standing outside the Rift Valley. At this moment, Mo Xiaobai looked at the faint purplish-black fog floating out of the Rift Valley. He couldn't help but frown. The closer he got to the door, the thicker the strange fog became. Mo Xiaobai could also feel that the fog had affected his emotions to a certain extent. There was always a feeling of anger in his heart that he had to vent. Fortunately, his cultivation was not bad. His spiritual energy was not weak either. This did not affect him too much. Mo Xiaobai exhaled slightly and stepped into the Rift Valley. As soon as he entered the Rift Valley, Mo Xiaobai saw a faint gray light floating in a huge crack in the inner wall of the Rift Valley, not far away. Mo Xiaobai raised his eyebrows. He had just entered, and he already encountered a magical beast. He slowly walked over. When he was about 50 meters away from the crack, a hissing sound was heard. From the crack, a huge reddish-brown scorpion about 2 meters long rushed out. Its tail was raised, and a faint red light flashed on its sharp stinger. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Its 8 slender legs stepped on the hard rock, and its body turned into a blur as it charged at Mo Xiaobai. Whoosh! A strong wind blew past. Mo Xiaobai saw the giant Rift Valley scorpion's huge pincers coming at him. Mo Xiaobai moved his feet slightly and took a step back, dodging the pincer's attack. At this moment, an ear-piercing sound was heard. Mo Xiao saw the giant Rift Valley scorpion's stinger coming at his head from the corner of his eye. Chi! Mo Xiao waved his right hand, and a black sword shadow slashed through the air, instantly cutting the stinger in half. Hiss! The giant Rift Valley scorpion let out a sharp hiss from the pain of having its stinger cut off. Mo Xiao's expression did not change. He waved the heavy sword in his hand again, and the sword shadow slashed across the giant Rift Valley scorpion's head. A huge crack appeared on the giant Rift Valley scorpion's head, and a pale green viscous liquid spurted out from the crack. Its body fell to the ground, twitched, and lost all signs of life. Mo Xiao looked at the lifeless giant Rift Valley scorpion, a trace of surprise flashing through his eyes. Although this giant Rift Valley scorpion was an ordinary rank 8 magical beast, why did he feel that it was stronger than most rank 8 magical beasts? Although it could not compare to elite magical beasts, it was still much stronger than ordinary magical beasts. Mo Xiao looked at the faint purplish-black fog in the sky, then looked inside the Rift Valley. Was it because of the fog? He did not expect that the opening of the door would bring about such a huge upgrade for magical beasts. Mo Xiao was somewhat surprised. This giant Rift Valley scorpion did not produce any extraordinary materials. Mo Xiao picked up the stinger that he had cut off earlier and stored it in his space ring, then continued to go deeper. Soon, Mo Xiao had entered a certain distance into the Rift Valley, but did not see any other candidates. Mo Xiao was not surprised by this. According to the information he had obtained from the Adventurer's Guide of the Blazing Moor, the Blazing Rift Valley was located in the deepest part of the Blazing Moor, with a radius of about a few hundred kilometers. Its interior was tangled and complicated, a bit like a maze with several entrances and exits. Moreover, the magical beasts here were at least one apertured rank 8. With the appearance of the door, the magical beast strength had increased greatly. There were probably not many candidates who could enter here, and in such a complicated terrain, it would be even more difficult to encounter them. As for magical beasts, Mo Xiao did encounter a few. There were blazing salamanders, blazing giant spiders, and giant Rift Valley scorpion. Like the giant Rift Valley scorpion he had encountered at the beginning, all the magical beasts had been strengthened to a certain extent. In fact, Mo Xiao had only encountered a few magical beasts, but he had already encountered an elite rank blazing giant spider. One could imagine that the Rift Valley was much more dangerous than it had been before. Mo Xiao continued to delve deeper. The deeper he went, the thicker the purplish-black fog became. Streaks of purplish-black fog rose, even forming a fog that blocked the top of the blazing Rift Valley. It blocked much of the sunlight, causing the Rift Valley to become gloomy. Even so, the blazing Rift Valley did not become any cooler. Mo Xiao was puzzled at first, but when he saw the magma pool in the corner of the inner wall that was about 10 meters in radius, he wasn't surprised. Mo Xiao stared at the boiling lava, the corners of his mouth twitching as he wiped away the sweat on his forehead. What the hell was this place? That night, as usual, Mo Xiao dug a crevice in the inner wall to rest, but he did not rest well. It was too hot, especially in the crevice. He felt as if he was being roasted and could be cooked at any time. In addition, as the night came, the thicker the purplish-black fog made Mo Xiao feel a little stuffy in his chest. He was very depressed. The next day, as the sky gradually brightened, Mo Xiao opened his eyes, flashing with anger. Boom! He could not help but heavily punch the rock in the crevice. A loud sound was heard, and spiderweb-like cracks appeared on the inner wall of the crevice. At the same time, gravel flew in all directions. Feeling the slight pain from his fist, Mo Xiao felt a little better. Phew! Mo Xiao exhaled, slowly calming his anger. His eyes flashed with a trace of fear. Wasn't this purplish-black fog too terrifying? How could it affect one's emotions? He walked out of the crevice and looked at the fog above the crevice. Under such a scorching temperature, he felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. He took a deep breath and focused, ensuring that he would not be disturbed by the purplish-black fog again. then continued to go deeper into the crevice. After about 100 kilometers, Mo Xiaobai frowned slightly. He had already gone so deep. Why hadn't he met any candidates? Could it be that he was lost? Thinking of this possibility, Mo Xiaobai's heart thumped, and his mood instantly became heavy. He looked around. The white light had expanded to a radius of about 200 meters due to the increase in his cultivation level, but all he could see was white light. He had no choice but to continue going deeper. After walking for less than a mile, Mo Xiaobai suddenly stopped in his tracks, his eyes wide open. This was because he heard the sound of intense fighting coming from afar. He was shocked and immediately turned to look in the direction of the sound, his eyes flashing with joy. He had finally found someone. Mo Xiaobai did not hesitate and quickly ran in the direction of the sound. Chapter 62. Mo Xiaobai ran around a few corners and arrived at the rift valley where the sound had come from. In the rift valley, there were dozens of candidates battling a group of one-apertured peak giant scorching spiders. Some of the candidates were armed with huge shields and heavy weapons. They were clad in battle armor, and their footsteps were heavy and their defenses were strong. There were also candidates armed with long swords and daggers. They were agile and their attacks were swift. There were also candidates roaming the battlefield with longbows in their hands. Mo Xiaobai scanned the candidates and realized that many of them had talents. Some people had fire affinity and were currently shooting out fireballs. Some people had speed innate talents, and their speed was clearly faster than the average examinees of the same level. Some people had earth affinity, just like Kong Xiuran, whose body was surrounded by a thick layer of earth and yellow armor. It looked like his strength and defense had increased by quite a bit. Mo Xiaobai was not surprised. Although talents were rare, the candidates here were the most talented candidates in the Empire. It was normal for them to have talents. Yin Shui and Mu Forest were also here. They were attacking a red giant scorching spider that looked like it was burning with flames. The red giant scorching spider was the leader of one-apertured peak magical beasts. This red giant scorching spider was not weak. It kept shooting out spider webs in an attempt to entangle Yin Shui and Mu Forest. It also shot out a chain of fireballs to attack. However, Yin Shui and Mu Forest were agile. Yin Shui kept shooting ice arrows, while Mu Forest waved his hands and shot out wind blades. The red blazing spider couldn't even touch the corners of their clothes. There were already many wounds on its body, and it could only let out an angry hiss. Blood kept flowing out of its body, and even its movements had become much slower due to the effect of the ice arrows. Be careful! Just as Mo Xiaobai was watching the chaotic battlefield, a cry of alarm rang out. Mo Xiaobai turned his head and saw a delicate-looking rabbit-human girl staring at Mo Xiaobai with her eyes wide open. A one-apertured elite giant scorching spider saw Mo Xiaobai, who was watching from the side. It roared and pounced toward him with its 6 legs. Mo Xiaobai glanced at the blazing giant spider pouncing towards him, and the corners of his mouth curled up. The anger that he had suppressed rose up once again, and a sinister look flashed across his eyes. He was very bored. The devil dog's spine appeared in his hand. Mo Xiaobai stomped the ground with his right foot. Dong! His body shot out like an arrow and brushed past the blazing giant spider. A black sword shadow flashed past. In the next moment, a huge hole suddenly appeared on the side of the blazing giant spider's body, and dark green mucus gushed out. It opened its mouth and let out a miserable shriek. It wanted to turn its head, but its body tilted and fell heavily to the ground. Only then did it realize that its 4 legs had already been chopped off by Mo Xiaobai. Mo Xiaobai walked up calmly and stabbed his sword into its head, ending its life. In the distance, the delicate rabbit-human girl and a few others who were standing beside her, who seemed to be her teammates, were stunned when they saw Mo Xiaobai almost instantly kill the one-apertured blazing giant spider. So strong? Mo Xiaobai picked up the transcendent materials that had seeped out, then rushed into the battlefield with a violent look in his eyes. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The devil dog's spine slashed across the blazing giant spiders' bodies, and the sound of tearing could be heard. In a short period of time, he had killed more than 10 blazing giant spiders. The transcendent materials and corpses were a good harvest. Mo Xiao did not even count how many points he had. Many people looked at Mo Xiao with a different expression. There was respect in their eyes. Mo Xiao's strength, they saw it with their own eyes. Even the one-apertured elite blazing giant spider could not withstand Mo Xiao's attack. While Mo Xiao was fighting with the examinees, more than 10 figures stood with their hands behind their backs above the blazing rift valley. Among them was the person in charge of the Ministry of Education, a well-built barbarian man named Su. There was also the middle-aged merman with obvious wrinkles on his head that Mo Xiao had met previously. They were currently looking down at the battlefield and nodding repeatedly. A well-built, bald human man with a hideous scar on his face grinned and said in satisfaction, "This year's little fellows are quite strong." A slightly plump, middle-aged night creature woman with a round face and big eyes nodded. She looked at Yin Shui and Mu Forest, who were chasing down the red, blazing giant spiders, and said, "Yin Shui and Mu Forest are indeed the direct descendants of the Yin and Mu families. Their strength is indeed not bad. A one-apertured peak magical beast leader, strengthened by the power of the void, is not weak, but the two of them are not struggling at all. Yeah, Yin Shui is General Yan's daughter. That fellow from Mu Forest is definitely no match for Yin Shui." The bald man touched the hideous scar on his face as he said this. When he mentioned General Yin, his eyes were filled with reverence. A gray-haired elf elder glanced at the bald man and shook his head with a smile. Then he smiled amiably. "That little fellow wearing black leather armor and wielding a heavy sword is quite interesting." Hearing this, the middle-aged merman who had been silent and looking down at the battlefield felt his heart skip a beat. His expression changed slightly. He had been silent all this while, hoping that no one would notice Mo Xiao. He did not expect this old fellow to have such good taste. "Oh, which one?" Hearing the elf elder's words, the others perked up and became curious. "That little fellow at the peak of one apertured. He's killing an elite blazing giant spider with one strike." Under the elf elder's guidance, everyone discovered Mo Xiao who was killing the blazing giant spider. This fellow is quite strong. When he saw Mo Xiao stomp on the ground, leaving a footprint and cracks in the surroundings, the bald man's eyes lit up. He must have a powerful physical talent. This strength is clearly not something that someone of his level should have. His cultivation is not weak either. He's at the peak of one apertured. Strange. This fellow looks quite good. Why don't I remember him? He's not among the top candidates, right? The information they had on the candidates was not like the rough information on the Dragon and Phoenix list that did not even have a photo. They would pay close attention to the candidates at the peak of one apertured, but this fellow was not among them. This made them puzzled. Did he just break through? Was he at one apertured level 8 previously? Or did he have a fortuitous encounter in the blazing wilderness? TSK. He killed the elite blazing giant spider with one strike, just like that? This fellow is not bad. With his strength, he should be in the top 10, right? We can pay close attention to him. The top 10, and even the teachers from the Big Three, looked at Mo Xiao. Their eyes glowed as they remembered him in their hearts. P.S. Sorry, the author has some matters to attend to today, so the update will be a little late. There will be an update later, around 9 or 10 p.m. Chapter 63. The battle continued, and soon, a miserable shriek was heard. The giant red scorching spider fell to the ground, its life force dissipating. Seeing the life force of their leader vanish, the few remaining blazing spiders fled into the distance. Phew! Seeing the giant scorching spiders leave, the candidates did not chase after them. They breathed a sigh of relief, and some even sat on the ground without caring about their image. There were quite a few giant scorching spiders this time, and they had been strengthened by the purplish-black fog. They were not weak, and many of the candidates were injured. They took out life potions and various fragrances, and used the transcendent flesh of demon beasts to make origin food to replenish their origin power and heal their injuries. Mo Xiao Bai was dealing with the giant scorching spider's corpse on the ground when he suddenly heard a cheerful and lively voice. "Student Mo Xiao Bai, you made it." Mo Xiao Bai turned around and found Li Mu Air running towards him with a smile. Beside her were Kong Xiu Ran and Ji Fei Bai. The three of them were in good condition and did not seem to have suffered any injuries. Mo Xiao Bai had also seen that the three of them had innate talents. Kong Xiu Ran had earth affinity, and Ji Fei Bai seemed to have an innate talent that increased his speed. He held two short swords and attacked either the giant scorching spider's eyes or its abdomen. His attacks were ruthless. Li Mu Air, on the other hand, had the power of nature. Moreover, she seemed to have the power of nature origin skill. Mo Xiao Bai had seen her raise her hand, and a green light covered Kong Xiu Ran's head. Kong Xiu Ran's injuries had begun to heal. Mo Xiao Bai smiled and nodded. How is it? Did you guys find the door?" Ji Fei Bai opened his mouth and said, "It shouldn't take long." The void energy that seeped out from the door made everyone feel restless. "I'm afraid it's not far away." "That's right. I'm afraid the door is just ahead. There might be a tough battle later." Mu Forest walked over with a smile on his face. It was obvious that the giant scorching spider's harvest was not bad. Mo Xiao Bai was about to speak when he suddenly felt someone looking at him. He turned around and saw Yin Shui staring at him from the side of the giant red scorching spider. Her eyes were wide open and her mouth was slightly agape. She had a look of disbelief on her face. He seemed to be shocked by Mo Xiao Bai's current cultivation level. Mo Xiao Bai smiled at Yin Shui. It was all thanks to her that he was able to enter the void treasure. When Yin Shui saw Mo Xiao Bai's smile, she came back to her senses. Her expression returned to its usual coldness, and she silently shifted her gaze away. She turned around and walked to a corner by herself. She sat down quietly and began to recover her energy. Mo Xiao Bai was a little surprised. Was this guy a loner like him? Just as Mo Xiao Bai was feeling surprised, a sound came from the forest. Mo Xiao Bai, what's wrong? Are you interested in Yin Shui? Mo Xiao Bai retracted his gaze and looked at Mu Sunlin. He realized that there was a smile on his handsome face that all men understood. Even Li Muir and the other two were looking at him with a gossipy expression. Mo Xiao Bai was speechless. "You're thinking too much. We just worked together once before." "Worked together?" Mu Forest was a little surprised. "That ice block rarely interacts with others. I didn't expect you to work together. I found a one-apertured level 8 black scale, scorching salamander before. My strength hadn't increased yet, so I met her and worked with her." Mo Xiao Bai explained with a smile. "Black scale, scorching salamander?" Mu Forest looked regretful. "What a pity. Mo Xiao Bai, you didn't look for me. A one-apertured level 8 black scale, scorching salamander is worth at least 5,000 points." Mo Xiao Bai was speechless. "Who knows where you are?" Mu Forest sighed. He had been competing with Yin Shui for first place. When he heard Mo Xiao Bai say that Yin Shui had even killed a magical beast leader, he immediately felt unwell. After chatting and resting for a while, most of them had recovered their strength. They stood up and continued to venture deeper into the Rift Valley. The deeper they went, the higher the temperature in the Rift Valley. The originally rare magma lakes and rivers became more and more numerous, and the air became thinner because of the high temperature. Moreover, the deeper they went, the greater the influence of the void energy. Some people even began to clash with each other. Fortunately, everyone was able to restrain themselves. With teammates holding them back, they didn't really start fighting. Mu Forest sighed and said, "When we go back this time, we must find a spiritual type origin skill to cultivate. Void energy is just too troublesome." He no longer had that relaxed smile on his face. Instead, his expression was somewhat cold. Mo Xiao Bai nodded his head in agreement. He also made up his mind that if he encountered a spiritual type origin skill, he would learn it immediately. This time was still okay. If they ran into a more serious situation, things might become even worse. They continued to kill magical beasts as they ventured deeper. The atmosphere was somewhat silent, as if a volcano could erupt at any moment. After a few hours, the group arrived at a giant valley that was several kilometers wide. To their right was a large magma lake. Scarlet magma churned within the lake, and the temperature was so high that the air was almost gone. On the left side of the valley was a large cave. The cave was about 20 meters tall. Because it was too far away, Imo Xiaobai couldn't see the light coming from that side. However, he could still feel an oppressive aura coming from within. It was likely that there was an incomparably powerful magical beast inside. In the middle of the spacious area, there was a purple-black circular spatial door that was slowly rotating. At this moment, the spatial door had already begun to shrink. It was only about a meter wide. From within the purple-black spatial door, wisps of purple-black fog surged out. It was filled with dense, void energy. Imo Xiaobai looked at the slowly shrinking spatial door. It was as if there was some terrifying magical beast inside that could swallow them up at any moment. A trace of fear instinctively appeared in his heart. At the same time, the anger in his heart became more and more obvious. Some other messy thoughts even appeared in his mind. It wasn't just him. The other students' eyes were also red, and their breathing was somewhat heavy. Everyone urgently needed a target to vent the anger in their hearts. And this target, everyone looked at the group of magical beasts pacing back and forth outside the spatial door. Kill. It wasn't clear who was the first to roar. Instantly, many of the examinees were driven by their anger and charged towards the magical beasts. Imo Xiaobai, Yin Shui, Mu Forest, and a few other examinees with higher cultivations were slightly calmer. However, killing the magical beasts here to obtain points was something that they should do. They also used their movement techniques and charged forward. Roar! When a magical beast saw the examinees charging over, they also roared and charged towards the examinees. The battle was about to erupt. At this moment, Imo Xiaobai's peripheral vision saw that at the edge of the light, within the slowly flowing magma, there was an extremely deep black light floating. His heart clenched and his whole body turned cold. He hurriedly stopped his body and roared, "Don't charge. Quickly retreat. P.S. Happy 520 everyone. Love you all, Mua." Chapter 64. Imo Xiaobai's voice reverberated in the valley. However, many examinees who were driven by anger had red eyes. They ignored Imo Xiaobai's reminder and did not stop in their tracks. They continued to charge forward. Yin Shui and Mu Forest, who were in a better state, heard Imo Xiaobai's warning and paused. They turned to look at Imo Xiaobai, whose expression had changed drastically. They did not have time to think and quickly retreated. At this moment, the lava lake on the right suddenly boiled. Boom! Magma gushed out, and two scarlet figures rushed out. Dark red, ring-shaped chi waves radiated outwards. When the many examinees who were charging at the front saw the ring-shaped waves of air and the lava falling from the sky, they felt as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over their bodies. Their anger dissipated completely. They only had time to get into defensive positions before they were hit by the dark red waves. Everyone was sent flying by the waves, and the first few people even had the sound of bones breaking. The lava that fell from the sky splashed onto many of them, and they screamed continuously. At least a third of the candidates lost their ability to fight, and the remaining candidates were more or less injured, their faces filled with fear. Imo Xiaobai, Yin Shui, and Mu Forest were further away and avoided this attack. They stared at the two figures that rushed out of the lava. They were two huge dogs about 2 meters tall, covered in dark red scales, with a strange red mane on their backs and curved horns on their heads. The eyes of the huge dogs seemed to have lava flowing in them, filled with intense malice, and the red light on their bodies was fading. The air around their bodies was slightly distorted, showing the high temperature. Mu Forest's expression changed. Lava hounds? And they are of the leader level. Imo Xiaobai looked at the deep black light around the two lava hounds, and his heart sank. Within a 30-meter radius of the lava demon hound, there was nothing but deep, dark light. It was only 30 meters away that the black light gradually dimmed. Even so, Even in his current range, it was still a light gray light. One had to know that his range of light was close to 200 meters with him as the center. These two lava hound leaders were far stronger than he had imagined. Yin Shui held her longbow and looked at the lava hounds cautiously and said, "Help." Two Tier 2 demon chieftains were not existences they could contend with right now. Hearing Yin Shui's words, Mu Forest did not hesitate and took out the distress crystal and poured origin power into it. At this moment, the two lava hounds looked at Mo Xiao Bai and the others in the distance who were not injured. They lowered their bodies slightly and opened their hideous mouths. Saliva flowed out from their white teeth and dripped onto the ground, making sizzling sounds. Mo Xiao Bai, Yin Shui, and Mu Forest's expressions changed, and their bodies tensed as they looked at the lava hounds. Careful, they are about to attack. Forest gathered a gust of wind in his hands. Mo Xiao Bai held the demon hound's spine in his hands, his expression serious, and his origin power slowly surging. Yin Shui drew her longbow without a word, and 3 ice arrows appeared at the same time, aiming at one of the lava hounds. Mo Xiao Bai glanced at the candidates on the ground and couldn't help but say, "Let's lure them further away, or else these guys will be in danger." Hearing Mo Xiao Bai's words, Mu Forest grinned. "I was just about to remind you." Yin Shui nodded. "Okay, roar." At this moment, a low roar came from the left. Dong, dong, dong. The sound of a large creature stomping on the ground rang out, and then an enormous black scale blazing salamander charged out of the cave. This black scale blazing salamander was 2 meters tall, its body more than 10 meters long, and its dark red eyes flashed with a fierce light. Mo Xiao Bai saw the black scale blazing salamander charge out, and his expression changed drastically. Another rank 2 boss. 3 rank 2 boss level magical beasts, and a demon. Almost everyone present felt their hearts sink, especially the examinees who were seriously injured. At this moment, their eyes were filled with despair. 2 lava hounds and a black scale blazing salamander charged at Mo Xiao Bai's group at the same time. When the 3 bosses charged, the other magical beasts in the distance also roared and charged. Mu Forest shouted to the candidates in the distance who still had the strength to fight. "The 3 of us will hold the bosses back. You guys block the other magical beasts." Yin Shui had already released her bowstring, and 3 ice arrows shot out, spinning towards one of the lava hounds in the distance. Mu Sinlin, on the other hand, unleashed a series of wind blades at the black-scaled, scorching salamander in the distance. The remaining lava hound was already 50 meters away from Mo Xiao Bai. Mo Xiao Bai could feel a scorching gust of wind blowing towards him. Roar! The lava hound opened its mouth and spat out a scarlet fireball. Mo Xiao Bai's hair stood on end, and he activated his origin skill. His legs pushed off the ground, and all the strength in his body exploded, his body turning into an afterimage as he charged to the left. Boom! The fireball landed heavily on the ground, and waves of fire surged, covering an area of more than 10 meters. Mo Xiao Bai felt as if his back was on fire, and there was a piercing pain at the back of his neck. So strong. The cold sweat on his forehead evaporated as soon as it appeared. His mind was tense, and he didn't dare look back as he sprinted forward. Grade 2 bosses were too terrifying. While Mo Xiao Bai and the others were holding back the 3 bosses, the magical beasts in the distance were also being blocked by the other candidates. For a moment, the entire mountain valley became somewhat chaotic. At the top of the mountain valley, a few teachers and staff members from the Ministry of Education were watching this scene. Su Du frowned slightly and said, "These little guys are too careless." The gray-haired elven elder smiled slightly. After all, this is the first time they've encountered a door, so it's understandable. This can be considered a lesson for them. The high-grade void domain and the 3 forbidden zones, which one isn't more dangerous than here? The bald man cracked open his mouth, revealing a sinister and ugly smile. But a handsome and mature rabbit man watched the frantically fleeing Mo Xiao Bai. That little guy's perception isn't bad. Lava concealment is the lava hound's prized skill. His cultivation isn't as high as the other two lava hounds, but he was able to sense it. Also, his strength really isn't bad. Although Mo Xiao Bai seemed to be running in a very sorry state, a low-grade grade 2 evil demon boss wasn't weak. Even low-grade 2 apertured martial fundamentalists wouldn't be able to escape from a lava hound, let alone Mo Xiao Bai, who was only at the peak of 1 aperture. Even the 2 apertured Mu Forest and Yin Shui wouldn't fare much better than Mo Xiao Bai. Many of the teachers were shocked. Chapter 65. Boom, boom, boom. Mo Xiao Bai fled along the inner walls of the valley. Behind him, fireballs exploded continuously, causing the inner walls to tremble slightly. Gravel kept falling from the walls, and the waves of fire relentlessly enveloped Mo Xiao Bai. Mo Xiao Bai felt the waves of fire behind him and gulped. He did not even dare to counterattack. The lava hound was not particularly fast, but that was relative to a demon of its level. To Mo Xiao Bai, it could catch up with him if he paused for even a moment. Now, around Mo Xiao Bai, there was always a grayish-black light. This made Mo Xiao Bai feel like he was walking on a tightrope. If he was not careful, he would be dead. On the other side, the situation in the wood forest was not much better. Wind flowed around his body. His legs tapped lightly on the ground, his body was very graceful, and his speed was also very fast. However, the black-scale fiery salamander opened its mouth and shot out a series of fireballs. The wood forest covered his head and fled like a rat. Dust and waves of fire surged, causing him to be covered in dirt. However, compared to Mo Xiao Bai, he was slightly better. At least he could occasionally use wind blades to counterattack. Although the wind blades were dodged by the black-scale fiery salamander, or scattered by its sharp claws, they still showed that they were struggling. Unlike Mo Xiao Bai, he could only charge forward with his heavy sword if he wanted to attack. Of course, if Mo Xiao Bai really dared to charge in front of the lava hound, he would definitely be slapped to death. Yin Shui's situation was not much better. She was very agile. The lava hound was not much faster than her, but every time her ice arrows were directly melted by a breath of fire or smashed by its claws. She could not even restrict the lava hound. She was also chased around by the lava hound. On the other side, the other candidates had teamed up to fight the numerous magical beasts. The void energy in this area was especially dense, and the magical beasts were strengthened even more. If they weren't injured, the examinees might not be a match for the magical beasts. However, most of the examinees were injured, and a portion of them had even lost the ability to fight. Faced with the violent attacks of the demonic beasts, many of the examinees could only resist with great difficulty. Their injuries were even becoming more and more serious. Roar! Behind Mo Xiao Bai, the lava demon hound growled in a low voice. It was angry that it hadn't been able to catch up with Mo Xiao Bai for so long. It opened its mouth and roared, its aura surging. Mo Xiao Bai felt the aura behind him. He quickly turned around and saw the lava demon hound raise its right claw, which was burning with flames. Chi! It swung its right claw at Mo Xiao Bai, and 3 blazing flame claw marks swept through the air. The flames burned and surged in the air, crossing a distance of tens of meters and quickly rushing in front of Mo Xiao Bai. Mo Xiao Bai could feel the terrifyingly high temperature, and his heart turned cold. The flaming claw marks were extremely fast. Mo Xiao Bai didn't even have time to dodge. A serious expression appeared on his face, and his muscles tightened. He adjusted his body to its best condition, and a ferocious expression appeared on his face. He held the heavy sword with both hands, and the heavy sword flashed with white light as he slashed at the flaming claw marks. 3 consecutive slashes. Boom, boom, boom. Mo Xiao Bai's 3 sword slashes landed on the flaming claw marks. The flames expanded and exploded, and the waves of fire raged. Mo Xiao Bai's expression changed drastically. He felt a powerful force surge into his heavy sword, and his arm was in great pain. His body was blown away by the explosion. His chest felt heavy, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. As soon as he landed, he saw the other side of the waves of fire, and the black light was rapidly approaching. His pupils contracted, and he endured the pain all over his body as he continued to run. At this moment, he felt a warm surge of energy flowing through his body, and the pain in his body gradually lessened. His expression changed slightly, and then a look of joy appeared on his face. It was the recovery effect of the breath of life. Who would have thought that this recovery ability would be so powerful? In such a short period of time, he felt that the soreness in his arm had lessened quite a bit, and the tightness in his chest had also recovered quite a bit. Mo Xiao Bai felt that if it weren't for the powerful defense provided by the breath of life, he might have been seriously injured just now. Moreover, Mo Xiao Bai discovered to his surprise that as his injuries healed, his physical body seemed to have improved slightly. An improvement after being injured. Mo Xiao Bai thought of one of the ways to improve the breath of life. As expected of a legendary level origin skill, its effects were indeed powerful. Mo Xiao Bai's heart settled. He turned around and glanced at the lava hound, which was roaring angrily because it had failed to injure him. He was delighted. With this defensive ability and recovery ability, it shouldn't be a problem for him to delay this lava hound, right? Above the valley, the experts who were observing Mo Xiao Bai, Yin Shui, and Mu Forest Trio all opened their eyes wide. That little guy took a raging flame claw head-on, and he's still alive and kicking. Su Du was somewhat stunned. The raging flame claw, an origin skill of a rank 2 boss-level lava hound, was not weak at all. How could a little guy at the peak of 1 aperture take it head-on? That little guy's origin skill just now should be triple slash, a rare level origin skill. Judging by his proficiency, it should be at the perfected level. He probably used an origin skill crystal. The gray-haired old elf squinted his eyes and smiled as he spoke. Even so, his physical strength played a big role. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have been able to block that raging flame claw. Not only that, but his defensive ability seems to be very powerful as well. This kid's physical talent is quite impressive. The bald man's eyes widened as he looked at Mo Xiao Bai, somewhat amazed. I'm afraid it's not just because of his talent. This little guy should have cultivated some kind of body-tempering origin skill, right? The middle-aged merman said slowly. When he had seen Mo Xiao Bai kill that elite-level wild wolf, he had already suspected that Mo Xiao Bai's physical body was incomparably strong. Now that he saw it, he was a little shocked. He was only at the peak of 1 aperture, but he could actually take a rank 2 boss-level lava hound's raging flame claw head-on. Wasn't that frightening? Ha! Our Lumen Academy wants this kid. The bald man suddenly laughed. Scram! The others immediately rebuked him. Which academy wouldn't want such a genius? While many powerhouses were astonished, Mo Xiao Bai's heart was very bitter. He realized that perhaps because he had blocked the raging flame claw, he had completely angered the lava hound. At this moment, the lava hound was practically chasing him around, causing him to feel even more pressure. Fireballs shot out one after another, and there was a raging flame claw from time to time. He spat out mouthfuls of blood. Why wasn't the teacher here yet? Mo Xiao Bai felt a chill run down his spine. If this continued, he wouldn't be able to hold on any longer. At this moment, Mo Xiao Bai's pupils suddenly contracted violently, and he turned to look to his left. There, the originally white light suddenly changed, quickly turning into a dazzling scarlet light. Chapter 66. Red light. Why would there be red light? Mo Xiao Bai was a little confused, but he didn't have time to think about it. The lava hound's hot breath was almost on his neck. He turned around and ran in the direction of the red light. Several fireballs passed through where Mo Xiao Bai was and hit the ground. Waves of fire surged. The lava hound that was chasing Mo Xiao Bai saw Mo Xiao Bai turn around. It roared and turned around, continuing to chase after Mo Xiao Bai. The red light was on the left side of the valley, only a few hundred meters away from the inner wall of the valley. Mo Xiao Bai arrived in front of the red light in a few seconds. Time was of the essence. He quickly glanced around. But what puzzled him was that the ground where the red light was no different from normal ground. It was also made of hard dark brown rocks. As for whether there were herbs down there, it was impossible. In the blazing wilderness, the only herbs that grew underground were scorched earth roots and scorched earth stems. There weren't even any weeds on the rocks. It didn't look like there were herbs here. Was it in the air? Mo Xiaobai took a step forward and came to the red light. But Mo Xiaobai's heart sank very quickly. There was no change. It didn't look like it was in the air. He glanced around at the red light, not knowing what it meant. Just then, a powerful aura approached quickly from behind. Mo Xiaobai came back to his senses. His expression changed as he saw that the lava demon hound was only about 50 meters away from him. Where he was now, the black light emitted from the lava demon hound's body had almost turned into a deep black. Extremely dangerous. His heart skipped a beat and his hair stood on end. He immediately turned around and tried to run. Above the valley, because of Mo Xiaobai's outstanding performance, all the experts were paying attention to Mo Xiaobai. Seeing that the lava hound was about to catch up with Mo Xiaobai, many experts frowned. This little fellow, he's about to be caught. My cultivation is still a little low after all. It's already not bad that I can last this long. Yes, many experts swept their gazes across the entire valley. Right now, many of the examinees' injuries were getting more and more serious, and they were retreating under the siege of the magical beasts. Yin Shui and Mu Forest were barely able to dodge the attacks, and they were now somewhat exhausted. Mo Xiaobai looked like he was about to be caught. It's about time, Su Du muttered to himself. It was at this moment that the entire scorching rift valley began to shake violently. Earthquake? The experts were stunned, but they didn't show any surprise on their faces. The geological activity of the scorching wilderness had always been like this. Earthquakes were frequent, especially in the scorching rift valley. With so many lava lakes and lakes, the tectonic activity was extremely intense. However, after each tremor, it didn't take long for the ground to return to normal. No one knew what kind of mighty force caused the ground to return to normal. Of course, it could also be a characteristic of the void domain itself. At this moment, the lava lake on the right side of the valley was like boiling water. Streams of lava spewed out and splashed everywhere, almost landing on the examinees not far away. The ground was also shaking violently, and there were even cracks appearing in some areas. The cracks weren't large, ranging from a few centimeters to dozens of centimeters wide. The ground of the entire valley was covered in cracks. Some areas were densely packed, while others were loose, like a broken mirror. This sudden tremor caught many examinees and magical beasts off guard. Yin Shui's feet had just touched the ground when the violent tremors in the valley caused her to lose her footing and almost fall. Fortunately, the lava demon hound that was chasing her was the same. It staggered and didn't take the opportunity to catch up to Yin Shui. Mu Forest's foot almost sank into a crack, and cold sweat broke out on his back. He glanced at the roaring black scale, blazing salamander behind him and pursed his lips. He focused on avoiding the cracks and didn't dare to continue fighting back. The other examinees, on the other hand, were distracted by the violent tremors, and the magical beasts were able to catch their breaths. Mo Xiaobai had been looking at the red light and hadn't had time to escape. This tremor caused his body to sway uncontrollably. He saw the lava demon hound pouncing towards him in the air, and his heart turned cold. At this moment, the lava demon hound was only 30 meters away from him. The surrounding light was almost pitch black. At this distance, Mo Xiaobai was in great danger. He instinctively wanted to turn and run. Just then, he saw the lava demon hound land, its two front limbs reaching into the cracks in the ground. The lava demon hound's speed wasn't considered fast among the rank 2 demon hounds, but it was still a rank 2 demon hound. In comparison, the lava demon hound's speed was naturally not slow. At this speed, its front limbs went deep into the cracks. The consequences were obvious. Crack, crack, crack. The hair-raising sound of bones cracking rang out. The lava demon hound's front limbs were broken. Its body flipped over, and its back limbs were still flailing in the air in despair. Then, its body spun and rolled like a wheel under the immense kinetic energy. A series of bone-cracking sounds rang out. Mo Xiaobai could see that the lava demon hound's originally malicious red eyes were now filled with shock and fear. Thump, thump, thump. After a few somersaults, the huge lava demon hound's body flipped over 30 meters on the cracked ground and finally fell limply at Mo Xiaobai's feet. At this moment, the lava demon hound's body was twisted. Its spine seemed to be completely broken, and its front limbs were a bloody mess. Its bones had pierced through the flesh, and its body was stained with purplish-black blood. The atmosphere instantly turned silent. Mo Xiaobai and the lava demon hound looked at each other, their eyes filled with confusion. The only difference was that the lava demon hound's eyes, which seemed to contain flowing lava, were filled with pain. And Mo Xiaobai? A question mark slowly appeared in his mind. After a moment of silence, perhaps because of the pain, the lava demon hound came to its senses. It roared angrily, lying on the ground, and opened its mouth to Mo Xiaobai. A dark red light flashed in its throat. Seeing this, Mo Xiaobai's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly stepped on the ground, and his body turned into a shadow as he dodged to the side of the lava demon hound. A fireball streaked past Mo Xiaobai's side. The scorching heat made it difficult for him to breathe. However, the lava demon hound's bones were almost completely broken. It could not even turn its neck. It tried to twist its body, but it kept wriggling like a worm. Mo Xiaobai, the corners of his mouth rose crazily. Raising the demon hound's spine in his hand, Mo Xiaobai quickly moved behind the lava demon hound. Then he raised the sword. Triple slash. Clang, 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 clang. 3 sword shadows slashed at the back of the lava demon hound's neck. The hard scales collided with the sword, and there was a sound of metal clashing. Mo Xiaobai felt his arm tremble from the recoil. However, the power of the triple slash was still impressive. The defenseless scales of the lava demon hound shattered under the heavy slash. A wound that was not too deep appeared, and blood flowed out. Mo Xiaobai saw this and was not surprised. After all, it was a level 2 magical beast leader. He raised the sword again expressionlessly. Triple slash, triple slash, triple slash. After a few more slashes, the lava demon hound screamed in pain. Mo Xiaobai had almost cut off its neck. Looking at the lava demon hound's lifeless body, Mo Xiaobai let out a sigh of relief. He rubbed his arm that was sore from the 3 consecutive strikes and the recoil. He slowly smiled. Comfortable. Chapter 67. Above the valley, many powerhouses watched as the lava hound that was chasing Mo Xiaobai broke all of its bones and delivered itself to Mo Xiaobai. Then, Mo Xiaobai killed it one by one with 3 consecutive slashes. Suddenly, everyone fell into a strange silence. They stared at the corpses on the ground, stunned. F*CK. How the F*CK is this possible? After a moment of silence, the bald man couldn't help but curse. The gray-haired elder's mouth twitched. I've lived for a few hundred years, and this is the most unbelievable way I've ever seen to kill an enemy above my level. He was a bit confused. Had the times changed? Now, they could kill demon leaders like this? Everyone else's face twitched. This guy's luck is too good. The opponent had crippled itself and delivered itself to his feet. This kind of luck was incomprehensible. But luck is also a part of one's strength. The middle-aged merman laughed dryly. When the others heard this, they nodded in agreement. Regardless of whether it was in the void or the 3 forbidden areas, those who were lucky could find high-grade medicinal herbs, origin skill crystals, extraordinary materials, or even void treasures and ancient ruins. All of these things could increase one's strength. Having good luck was something that countless people envied, and it was also a reflection of one's strength. In the valley, when Mo Xiaobai killed the lava demon hound, the lava demon hound's screams attracted the attention of Yin Shui, Mu Sunlin, and many other examinees. Yin Shui dodged the lava hound's fireballs as she turned to look in Mo Xiaobai's direction. When she saw the corpses on the ground, her pupils constricted and her body trembled. She almost stopped moving. However, The roar behind her caused her heart to tremble. She came to her senses and continued to dodge the attacks. Her heart was filled with shock and disbelief. How was this possible? That guy actually killed the lava hound. How'd he do it? Yin Shui didn't see the lava demon hound when it was still rolling around, so she couldn't figure it out. Because he was too shocked, he was distracted and almost got hit by a flame claw. Force was also dumbfounded. How could he not know the strength of a second-grade magical beast? And Mo Xiaobai was only at the peak of one aperture. How could he kill a Class 2 demonic beast? What the hell was going on? The examinees in the distance were also in a daze. Some of them were even struck by the demonic beasts because they were distracted and were sent flying with heavy injuries. Only a small portion of the examinees who were originally lying on the ground with serious injuries saw the whole thing from beginning to end. At this moment, they were looking at Mo Xiaobai with strange expressions. This person, could he be the son of destiny? Why would a Tier 2 demon chieftain come here to die? Mo Xiaobai was just about to wait for the lava demon hound to extract the transcendent material when he heard the screams in the distance. His expression changed, and he looked up. In the distance, the examinees who had been ambushed by the lava demon hound were already at their limits. Now that they were stunned by Mo Xiaobai's strange actions, the demonic beast had taken advantage of the opportunity, and they were already on the verge of collapsing. One examinee after another flew out with heavy injuries. If not for their strength, some of them might have died. Even so, Mo Xiaobai could see that some of them were seriously injured. Mo Xiaobai frowned and rushed towards the examinees. At this moment, a few figures descended from the sky. A terrifying aura covered the area, and all the demonic beasts were immediately suppressed by the aura. Then, Su Du stomped on the ground with his right foot. Dong! The ground shook, and spikes shot up into the sky, piercing through all the demonic beasts. Even the two Tier 2 demonic beasts that were chasing after Yin Shui and Mu Forest did not manage to escape. They were pierced by the spikes and died instantly. Mo Xiaobai's pupils constricted and his heart trembled. Was this the power of a 7-chakra master? He killed so many Tier 1 demonic beasts and 2 Tier 2 demonic beasts with a casual move. Too powerful. Su Du's expression did not change at all, as if he had done something insignificant. The middle-aged merman had already arrived beside the heavily injured examinees. He waved his right hand, and streams of blue light appeared out of thin air. These streams of water wrapped around the bodies of close to 100 examinees. Mo Xiaobai could see that these examinees' bodies were recovering at an extremely fast speed. Their originally pale faces became rosy, and their pained expressions disappeared. In a short span of 10 breaths, except for a few who were severely injured, everyone else had recovered. Even the areas that had been burned by the lava had completely recovered. Mo Xiaobai exclaimed again. This teacher from the Spiritual Heart Academy was also very powerful. At the very least, he was a powerful healing body fundamentalist. After so many powerful people rushed over the huge crisis that Mo Xiaobai and the rest had been resolved in an instant. Mo Xiaobai exhaled and turned to look at the lava hound's corpse. He realized that the transcendent materials had seeped out. There was less green light, more blue light, and finally a trace of purple light. Rare, transcendent materials. Mo Xiaobai was overjoyed and jogged back. He quickly picked up all the transcendent materials. The green transcendent materials were the lava hound's bones, claws, and a few teeth. The blue ones were its pair of demon horns, its viscous purplish-black gelatinous demon blood, its dark red heart, and its crimson scales. As for the purple light, what surprised Mo Xiaobai was that it was actually a pale white ring. Mo Xiaobai picked up the ring. The whole ring was made of pale white bones. There were dark red lines on it, as if it was carved by flames. The whole ring had a warm feeling to it. A rank 2 rare heavenly forged ring. Mo Xiaobai was excited. Heavenly forged equipment was rare, not to mention a rank 2 rare one. Moreover, it was a ring. The value was extremely high. Mo Xiaobai happily put the ring on. Suddenly, he felt that his strength and endurance seemed to have increased. At the same time, His mind seemed to have been nourished. Mo Xiao Bai felt that his strength had increased by 10%, his endurance had increased by less than 20%, and his spirit had increased by nearly 10%. His battle strength had increased by about 20%. This increase was already very terrifying. One had to know that his battle strength was already very strong. What kind of feeling would it have if it increased by another 20%? However, for a rare heavenly forged ring that was close to a legendary equipment, this increase was already considered small. Mo Xiao Bai was not surprised. This ring was rank 2 and had origin power adaptability. He was only rank 1 and could not display the full effect of this ring. Only after breaking through to rank 2 would he be able to display the full effect of this ring. At that time, his improvement would be great. However, even so, this ring was not comparable to the elite grade ring that he obtained from the greedy adventurer in the Greystone Hills. After all, it was a rare heavenly forged ring. Mo Xiao Bai fondly stroked the ring and named it the Lava Bone Ring. After all, it was a ring made from the bones of a lava hound. Just as Mo Xiao Bai was rejoicing, a cold voice sounded. "Student Mo Xiao Bai, thank you very much." Mo Xiao Bai turned his head and found Yin Shui not far away, silently looking at him. Her face was still expressionless. Chapter 68. Seeing Mo Xiao Bai look over, she said, "If you hadn't warned me, I would have been injured." Facing a second-level magical beast in that state, the consequences would have been unthinkable. This woman was still the same as last time. She was still so principled. She could actually differentiate between the two so clearly. Mo Xiao Bai smiled inwardly and said, "I'm doing this for myself. If you can't stop the Abyss Devil Leader, then I'll have to face 3 Abyss Devil Leaders alone. I'll be dead." Yin Shui didn't expect Mo Xiao Bai to say that. She was stunned for a moment, then her expression softened. Then, she looked at the dried lava demon hound's flesh beside Mo Xiao Bai, and her expression changed slightly. Her ice blue eyes were filled with unwillingness, helplessness, bewilderment, and other complicated emotions. She nodded at Mo Xiao Bai and didn't say anything else. Mo Xiao Bai looked at Yin Shui and was confused. He didn't intend to ask. At this moment, Mu Forest walked over. He looked a little disheveled. The hem of his gorgeous green robe had been cut short, revealing his boots of the same color. There were also a few holes on his robe, which should have been burned by the flames. His green hair was a little messy, and there was some dust on his face. But even so, he still had a refreshing smile on his face. His noble aura couldn't be erased. Mu Forest smiled as he walked over to Mo Xiao Bai and said, "Student Mo Xiao Bai, thank you so much. Otherwise, we would have all died here." Mo Xiao Bai chuckled. "You're welcome. We've gone through life and death together. From now on, we're friends. If you need my help, don't hesitate to look for me." Mu Forest chuckled. Under Mo Xiao Bai's confused gaze, he reached out and put his arm around Mo Xiao Bai's shoulder. Mo Xiao Bai, why was he acting so familiar? He was speechless. However, Mu Forest's personality was quite to Mo Xiao Bai's liking. Naturally, Mo Xiao Bai wouldn't object to making friends. At this moment, Mu Forest looked down at the corpse of the lava demon hound on the ground. His eyes were filled with shock. "Xiao Bai, how did you kill it?" Not far away, Yin Shui heard Mu Forest's question. She was also shocked. She quietly pricked up her ears to listen to Mo Xiao Bai's answer. When Mo Xiao Bai heard this, he said innocently, "When this guy was chasing me, he accidentally put his leg into the crack and broke all the bones in his body. I just stood there and hacked him to death." Forest, Yin Shui. The two of them looked at Mo Xiao Bai strangely. They were a little confused. The atmosphere instantly fell silent. After a moment, the corner of Mu Forest's mouth twitched. "That's it." Mo Xiao Bai nodded. "That's it. Xiao Bai, with your luck, you can easily be beaten to death." His eyes turned green. "How could this be?" At this moment, Yin Shui said softly from afar, "Mo Xiao Bai should have discovered a void treasure a few days ago, right?" Mo Xiao Bai was stunned. He looked at Yin Shui in surprise. "Why would you think that? It's only been a few days since we last met, but your cultivation level has risen from the 5th level to the pinnacle. Clearly, You used a rare treasure. At this level outside, there aren't many rare treasures that can raise one's cultivation level so quickly. It's most likely an origin fruit. In the blazing heat wilderness, the probability of finding one is too low. Of course, if it's just an origin fruit, it's not completely impossible to find it. However, the rare grade heavenly forged leather armor you're wearing. Yin Shui glanced at Mo Xiao Bai's leather armor and said softly, "You found an origin fruit and a rare heavenly forged leather armor set at the same time. Clearly, you entered a void treasure, right?" At the end of her sentence, even her gaze at Mo Xiao Bai was somewhat envious. The probability of discovering a void treasure was too low. At least, from the data on the surface, it might not even appear once in a few years. However, the real situation was definitely higher. After all, most people would choose to make a fortune in silence after discovering a void treasure. Even so, it was still extremely rare to find a void treasure. Who would have thought that Mo Xiao Bai would actually find a void treasure? How can anyone not be envious? Mo Xiao Bai looked at Yin Shui's ice-cold eyes and was a little shocked. This woman was very smart. At the side, Mu Forest widened his eyes and looked at Mo Xiao Bai. "Student Xiao Bai, is Yin Shui telling the truth?" Mo Xiao Bai nodded lightly. Yes, there was nothing to hide. They all knew about his previous cultivation base. In fact, the teachers probably had some guesses about him finding a void treasure, right? Even if they didn't have any guesses now, as long as they saw his cultivation base and region when he registered, they would definitely have some guesses. The corner of Mu Forest's mouth twitched, and his eyes turned red with envy. What kind of luck is this? I thought you were deliberately pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. You brought an origin fruit and a heavenly forged leather armor set in your spatial ring and planned to enter the void treasure to improve and amaze the world. Who would have thought that you actually found a void treasure? Mo Xiao Bai was stunned when he heard Mu Forest's guesses. What kind of brain circuit was this? Was this how the children of aristocratic families played? He silently looked at Yin Shui and found that Yin Shui was expressionless. She even seemed to look at Mu Forest with some disdain. He immediately felt relieved. It seemed that he wasn't crazy. The crazy one was Mu Forest. While they were chatting, the experts in the distance had already dealt with the scene. The materials of the magical beasts had been collected, and the candidates had all been treated. Su Du crossed his arms in front of his chest, and his resolute face was a little cold. "All right, you're the last batch of candidates. Since you have also asked for help, this year's First Cries trial will end here." Hearing this, all the examinees felt relieved and smiled. The gray-haired elder looked at the candidates' relaxed and happy smiles and smiled warmly. "All right, you've all worked hard. I'll bring you back." As he spoke, he didn't do anything. A light breeze blew and lifted everyone up. Then, the wind whistled and brought everyone back to the encampment amidst everyone's exclamations. Mo Xiao Bai listened to the whistling of the wind and looked at the rapidly passing scenery below. He opened his eyes wide and felt a little excited. Was this flying? How exciting! He hoped that he could break through to the 7th aperture soon so that he could fly. The elder was very fast. In a moment, he brought everyone to the huge encampment square and stopped. The candidates who had already finished the trial were resting in the encampment's resting area. When they saw everyone descending from the sky, their eyes widened. It's Yin Shui, Mu Forest, and those geniuses at the peak of the 1 aperture. They're back too? Looks like the trial has ended. I wonder what the final rankings will be. Everyone was looking forward to it, but also a little nervous. Once the rankings were out, it would determine whether they could enter the 3 great schools. Chapter 69. After landing, Sudo looked at the candidates and said, "All right, you can go to the Adventurers Guild to register your points." Hearing Sudo's words, the candidates' eyes lit up and they smiled as they walked towards the Adventurers Guild. They were very relaxed. With their abilities, they would definitely be able to enter the big 3. It was just a matter of ranking. The higher the ranking, the more schools would fight over them and the higher the rewards. This was why they were looking forward to it. Mu Forest smiled and said, "Xiao Bai, shall we go together?" Beside him were Li Mu Air, Kong Xiu Ran, and Ji Fei Bai. At this moment, the three of them were looking at Imo Xiao Bai. Li Mu Er's eyes shone brightly. Imo Xiao Bai, you're too amazing. You're the only candidate here who managed to kill a Class 2 magical beast. Ji Fei Bai nodded slightly. That's true. With the points of a Class 2 magical beast, Imo Xiao Bai has hopes of getting first place. The taciturn Kong Xiu Ran nodded with a face full of envy. On the other hand, Mu Forest's mouth twitched. He had mixed feelings. He originally thought that it would only be him and Yin Shui fighting for first place. He didn't think that Imo Xiao Bai would jump out at the end. The points of a Class 2 magical beast were too high. Even if Imo Xiao Bai didn't kill a magical beast for more than half of the time, he still wasn't confident. Imo Xiao Bai laughed softly. I'm not sure yet. Let's see how it goes. He actually didn't think that he would have the chance to get first place. After all, his original goal was just to get into the big three. Who would have thought that his luck would be so good? Yin Shui had already left. Imo Xiao Bai, Mu Forest, and Li Mu Er also left. Along the way, many people glanced at them. Most of the examinees had their eyes on Imo Xiao Bai. Even Mu Forest did not receive as much attention as him. At that time, all the examinees present knew that Imo Xiao Bai had killed a rank 2 lava demon hound. He was also the only examinee who managed to kill a stage 2 leader. Even Yin Shui and Wood Forest could barely avoid the attacks of the Class 2 demonic beasts. This time, Imo Xiao Bai was definitely the darkest dark horse. He even had a high chance of becoming the top scorer. The group walked through the streets and headed towards the Adventurers Guild. Along the way, many examinees who had already been eliminated rushed out of the resting area and followed Imo Xiao Bai and the rest towards the Adventurers Guild. Today would be the day to decide the final ranking. They also wanted to know how strong the most talented group of young dragons and phoenixes were and how many points they had accumulated. Who do you think will be the top scorer this time? On the street, someone looked at the 100 or so examinees who were the last to return and asked softly, Yin Shui. I'm guessing it will be Yin Shui. A rabbit-human boy looked determined. She's first on the Dragon Phoenix leaderboard. She's definitely the strongest. And she's so good-looking, too. A beautiful elf girl beside him said, What does good-looking have to do with strength? Young Master Mu will definitely be first. Both of them are direct descendants of the elders' families. I think young Master Mu will definitely be stronger. I think so, too, Wood Forest. I'll bet on Yin Shui. Everyone thought that the top scorer would definitely be either Yin Shui or Wood Forest. After all, only the two of them had opened 2 apertures. Moreover, they were direct descendants of the Yin and Mu families. How could their combat power be weak? Hearing the discussion, the examinees who had just returned had strange expressions and looked towards Imo Xiao Bai. They sighed inwardly. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would probably have the same thoughts as those people. However, there was a high probability that the outcome this time would exceed their expectations. Very quickly, everyone arrived at the Adventurers Guild. The scorching wilderness was a suffering level void territory. Its area was much larger than the Greystone Hills. Naturally, the encampment was also larger. The Adventurers Guild's encampment was also much grander than the one in the Greystone Hills. The Adventurers Guild was made of dark red hard rocks and looked a little rough. The door was 10 meters tall and 10 meters wide. It was enough for many people to enter at the same time. There was also a small square outside the door. At this moment, in the small square in front of the Adventurers Guild, there was a huge screen erected. The screen was filled with the names of the examinees. This was the ranking of the first Ming trial and their points. Imo Xiao Bai glanced at it. The first place was now examinee called Lu Shi. She had more than 13,000 points. This was already a very high score. The person at the bottom only had 5 points. The difference was more than 2,000 times. Imo Xiao Bai was quite curious about what the person at the bottom had done to obtain 5 points. Beside the screen, there were more than 10 staff members from the Ministry of Education sitting behind a table. They were waiting. These staff members were all herb appraisers and material appraisers. The examinees who had already returned gathered around the small square to watch the show. Imo Xiao Bai and the rest came in front of the appraisers. Su and many other powerful people were smiling at the examinees. These people were the geniuses of this batch, especially Mo Xiaobai, Yin Shui, and Mu Forest. Most of the powerful people were looking at the three of them. Among them, Mo Xiaobai was the one they paid the most attention to. After all, Mo Xiaobai's performance was too shocking, especially the incomprehensible luck at the end. It was simply ridiculous. Su crossed his arms and stood there like a mountain. He raised his voice and said, "Begin the registration." Hearing this, the examinees rushed forward excitedly. They poured out a pile of herbs, transcendent materials, and evidence like the ears and teeth of magical beasts from their spatial rings. In a moment, the entire square was filled with the smell of blood. But to many of the body fundamentalists, the smell of blood did not cause any discomfort. The appraisers at the scene began to quickly appraise. This included the type and grade of the herbs, the strength and rank of the magical beasts, and so on. Lin Xiao, a total of 10,843 points. Lu Yiming, a total of 19,522 points. Li Xiao, a total of 15,720 points. The examinees' points came out one by one, and there were more names on the screen. Lu Shi, who was originally in first place, quickly fell behind. Many examinees in the distance heard the points being reported one by one, and all of them opened their eyes wide and inhaled a breath of cold air. These guys are really perverted. None of them have less than 10,000 points. Too terrifying. Are these the geniuses? Everyone was shocked. One must know that they were already considered super geniuses in their own cities. They did not expect that they would be shocked by the strength of others here. Soon, the examinees were done with the assessment, and there were only about 10 left. Mu Forest smiled and said, "Xiaobai, let's go take the assessment too." And Mo Xiaobai nodded his head, and there was a flash of anticipation in his eyes, and Yin Shui, who was not far away, saw that there was no one left and went forward as well. After seeing Mu Forest and Yin Shui go forward, everyone was excited. Look, Yin Shui and Mu Forest are starting to register their points. Most of the examinees who had just finished their assessment had their eyes fixed on Mo Xiaobai, a barbarian youth who had been eliminated long ago and had come to watch the commotion. Saw a barbarian youth who looked similar to him looking at a black-haired human youth with a serious expression. He asked curiously, "Brother, why aren't you paying attention to Yin Shui and Mu Forest? Why are you paying attention to that black-haired guy?" The barbarian youth glanced at his younger brother, who looked somewhat similar to him, and recalled the strange killing scene from before. The corner of his mouth twitched as he said, "Don't speak. Watch that fellow carefully. That fellow will give all of you a shock." Hearing this, the younger barbarian was stunned. He looked at his older brother strangely and then curiously looked in the direction of Mo Xiaobai. In the other areas, there were a few other examinees who were familiar with the examinees who had just returned and were having similar conversations. They looked at Mo Xiaobai in confusion and curiosity. They did not understand why such powerful friends and relatives would pay so much attention to this black-haired youth. They were even paying more attention to him than Mu Forest and Yin Shui. P.S. Thank you for coming over to take a look. Rabbit loves to eat cabbage. BB Bubbles. Book friend 20200-3181011-12038. Fruity Lotus Root Slices. Overnight Sage. Darius Hill. Farmer Lee. Napoleon's underwear as a reward. Thank you. Big shots. Chapter 70. In a square, Mo Xiaobai came before a material appraiser and an herb appraiser. The material appraiser was an elven man with a fringe on his left side and a pair of green eyes. He wasn't very old, at most in his 20s or 30s, and looked very amiable. He smiled at Mo Xiaobai. "Student, take out your materials and herbs." Mo Xiaobai nodded. Then, with a wave of his right hand, a large pile of extraordinary materials and magical beast carcasses piled into one, and another pile of herbs piled into another. They looked like two small hills. Seeing the many materials and herbs on the ground, the two appraisers were stunned. The herb appraiser was a barbarian man who looked a little dull. He had been standing at the side without saying a word. But now, his eyes were shining as he grabbed a mushroom that looked like it was burning on the ground. It was about the size of a palm. Ugh, blaze mushroom, and a rare one at that? The barbarian man's eyes widened, and his breathing quickened. He raised his head to look at the smiling Mo Xiao Bai, then at the blaze mushroom in his hand. After going back and forth a few times, he took a deep breath and said, "A rare blaze mushroom, 5,000 points." He lowered his head and recorded it on the instrument. Mo Xiao Bai smiled inwardly. The 2,000th place had 4,998 points. In other words, this blaze mushroom's points alone had allowed him to rush into the top 2,000. The material appraiser at the side also widened his eyes at the mountain of extraordinary materials. His breathing quickened as he squatted down, his movements as gentle as if he was stroking his lover's long hair. He carefully began to appraise the various extraordinary materials. A rare black scale, blazing salamander's leather armor. The origin power remnant waves inside should come from a 1-apertured rank 8 black scale, blazing salamander leader. For 1,000 points. A rare wild wolf's leather should come from a 1-apertured rank 7 wild wolf leader. 3,500 points. This is a red blazing spider's poison sac. A rare one. The elven appraiser's eyes widened as he looked at the red blazing poison sac in his hand. A red blazing spider at the pinnacle of 1 aperture. The elven appraiser raised his head to look at Mo Xiao Bai, his heart trembling. This young man had actually killed a leader of the same level as him. So strong? Mo Xiao Bai saw the elven appraiser's gaze and smiled at him. He had expended a great deal of effort to kill this red blazing spider. After killing it, he himself had suffered heavy injuries. If it wasn't for the breath of life's recovery effect, he probably would have called for help. The elven appraiser. He lowered his head quietly and recorded it on the instrument. 5,000 points. On the other side, the male barbarian appraiser was also intoxicated by the medicinal herbs. Is this a scorched earth stalk? Of the rare ones is this, of the scorched skork? My god of the world, of the flower, of the 5,000 points. The man's cultivation was already at the 3rd aperture. He was considered an experienced herb appraiser and had seen herbs of higher grades. However, he had never seen a kid with only 1 orifice being able to find so many rare-ranked and rarely ranked herbs in a trial. He could not help but look at Mo Xiao Bai. Could this student be a herb gatherer? Moreover, his herb-seeking skill level was probably not low, right? At this moment, the elven appraiser on the side suddenly let out a cry of disbelief. This is impossible. This exclamation attracted the attention of everyone in the square. At this moment, the elven appraiser was holding a pair of dark red demon horns in his hand. He suddenly raised his head and looked at Mo Xiao Bai. These are the horns of a lava hound? And a rank 2, level 1, leader lava hound? Once this was said, the atmosphere in the square stagnated. Then, everyone was in an uproar. What? A rank 2 leader lava hound? Other than the examinees, and Su Du who already knew the situation, all the examinees and appraisers who came to watch were stunned. They widened their eyes and looked at Mo Xiao Bai in disbelief. This guy killed a rank 2 leader. What kind of joke is this? This is impossible. He is only at the pinnacle of 1 aperture. Even if he killed a magical beast of a higher level, he should be strong enough to kill a normal magical beast. Facing a rank 2 leader magical beast, he should be able to escape. How can he kill it? How can he kill it? Is there a mistake? There must be a mistake. The surrounding examinees were in an uproar. No one believed this was real. Among the barbarian brothers who were talking previously, the younger barbarian looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He widened his eyes and turned to look at his elder brother, whom he was proud of. He was shocked to find that his elder brother's expression was bitter and unwilling. His mind went blank. He opened his mouth and could not help but ask, "Brother, did you already know? Is this for real?" When the barbarian brother heard his brother's question, the corner of his mouth twitched. Then he nodded with some difficulty and smiled bitterly. "Not only me, but the guys who just came back also know. We saw him kill the lava demon hound with our own eyes. Hiss, after hearing the elder barbarian's explanation, not only the younger barbarian, but even the examinees who were listening at the side were shocked and took in a deep breath. They looked at Mo Xiaobai again and could not help but swallow their saliva. Their eyes were filled with respect. This was a super powerful person who could even kill a rank 2 evil demon leader. Really, he really killed it. The younger barbarian was so shocked that his voice changed. Yes, the elder barbarian nodded. He was more unlucky. When he charged at the beginning, he was severely affected by the void energy. He was furious and charged at the front. He did not care about Mo Xiaobai's reminder at all. In the end, under the lava hound's lava concealment, he was one of the first to fall. In a later battle, he watched as the lava hound fell to the ground and was paralyzed. Then it was killed by Mo Xiaobai. This made him feel very bitter. This kind of killing method, he could do it too. It was not only him. Perhaps everyone was unconvinced. Mo Xiaobai's strength was there. It could be seen from the extraordinary materials he took out from the demon beast's head that he was much stronger than most of them. But this difference in strength was not unimaginable. It was also not enough for Mo Xiaobai to kill the lava hound. From her point of view, this was only because Mo Xiaobai was too lucky. But the truth was the truth. They could not refute it. Even if they were unconvinced, even if they felt bitter, they could only endure it. After all, when they entered the Big Three, they would have the chance to prove themselves. They would prove that the gap between them and Mo Xiaobai was very small. They might even be able to catch up with Mo Xiaobai in the future. Chapter 71. Other than a small number of examinees who had received confirmation from their friends and family, most of the examinees were doubting whether the appraiser had made a mistake. At this moment, Su Du spoke. The appraiser did not make a mistake. Mo Xiaobai did indeed kill a rank 2 lava demon hound. Continue. What? There was no mistake? Everyone's eyes widened as they looked at the person in charge of the first cries trial in disbelief. They realized that none of the appraisers refuted the appraiser. At this moment, everyone's hearts trembled. Even the appraisers did not refute the appraiser. It was obvious that Mo Xiaobai had really killed a rank 2 demon hound. But how did he do it? Everyone's mind was filled with question marks. Among the examinees, Lu Xiaofei and the fat rabbit person were both dumbfounded. No matter how strong Mo Xiaobai is, he can't be this strong, right? Lu Xiaofei stared at Mo Xiaobai with his eyes wide open. Suddenly, he felt that Mo Xiaobai had become extremely tall in his eyes. He felt a huge pressure in his heart. But even Su Du and the other appraisers did not refute it. Looks like it's true. The fat rabbit person's voice was trembling. The two of them looked at each other as they recalled how they had mocked Mo Xiaobai. They felt bitter. After hearing Su Du's words, the appraisers regained their senses and continued to register the points. The male elf appraiser looked at Mo Xiaobai. His eyes were still filled with shock. He then lowered his head to register. Rank 2, Rank 1 Demon Hound. Lava Demon Hound. Points. 100,000. He swallowed his saliva and entered the numbers into the machine. When Mo Xiaobai heard this, he was overjoyed. The examinee with the highest points only had a little over 20,000 points. His points for this round was almost 5 times that of the first place. He wondered how many points Yin Shui and Mu Forest had. Mo Xiaobai's gaze swept across Yin Shui and Mu Forest. The registration of points continued. After a while, the appraisers finished their registration one after another and tallied up the points. Li Xiaoqin, total points, 14,640. Nan Fengqing, total points, 15,500. One by one, the scores of the candidates were tabulated. Everyone was waiting for the final score of Yin Shui, Mu Forest, and Mo Xiaobai. Yin Shui, total points, 146,823. Hua. Hearing that Yin Shui had a total of 140,000 points, everyone was in an uproar. That's terrifying. He actually has 140,000 points. I only have 1,400 points. Yin Shui's points are 100 times more than mine. I'm about to cry. Don't say any more. I'm already crying. I only have 22 points. While everyone was talking, the total points of the Wood Forest had been tallied up. Wood Forest, 141,800 points. It was another 140,000 points. Young Master Mu is also very strong. He also has 140,000 points. Unfortunately, he's still 5,000 points short of Yin Shui. Yin Shui is still better. Hearing that his total points were lower than Yin Shui's, Wood Forest frowned and felt a little disappointed. 5,000 points. Wood Forest recalled that Mo Xiaobai had mentioned that he had worked with Yin Shui to kill the black scale blazing salamander. If he had killed the black scale blazing salamander, then his points would have surpassed Yin Shui's. TSK, Wood Forest glanced at Mo Xiaobai with some bitterness. On the other hand, Yin Shui's eyes flashed when she heard Wood Forest's points. Then, she turned to look in Mo Xiaobai's direction. At this moment, Mo Xiaobai's appraiser had finished recording the points. The two of them tallied up the total points and looked at each other with shock in their eyes. Then, the male elf took a deep breath and uploaded Mo Xiaobai's points. Mo Xiaobai, total points, 218,888. Seeing Mo Xiaobai's points, the atmosphere fell silent for a moment. Then, the crowd began to clamor. What the F***? 210,000 points. Is this F*** King serious? Isn't this too much? More than 70,000 points higher than Yin Shui in Wood Forest? Even Mo Xiaobai couldn't help but be stunned when he saw his points. My points are that high? Mo Xiaobai was not even sure if he could get first place. After all, Yin Shui in Wood Forest had already killed the leaders of the magical beasts from the beginning. He had been idling for half of the time. In his opinion, even with the Lava Hound's points, he would at most be slightly higher than Yin Shui in Wood Forest. Who would have thought that he had unknowingly gained so many points? Not only Mo Xiaobai, but Su Du and the rest also widened their eyes when they saw Mo Xiaobai's points. 218,000 points. The middle-aged merman's eyes flashed with shock. Even if we deduct the 100,000 points from the Lava Hound, he still has 118,000 points. The bald man's eyes widened as he looked at the points on the screen. For a moment, the powerhouses looked at each other with shock in their eyes. After deducting the points from the Lava Hound, Mo Xiaobai's points were lower than Yin Shui and Wood Forest's. However, Yin Shui and Wood Forest were super geniuses with 2 chakras, while Mo Xiaobai was only at the peak of 1 chakra. Their cultivation levels were not on the same level, but their points were only 30,000 points apart. The difference was much smaller than they had imagined. Other than Mo Xiaobai, the dragon whelp, who was also at the peak of 1 chakra, only had 20,000 points. Mo Xiaobai's points were 5 times more than his. Instantly, all the powerhouses turned to look at Mo Xiaobai, their eyes green with envy. They had to get such a genius into their school. Yin Shui's eyes widened when she saw Mo Xiaobai's points. She was shocked, unwilling, and at a loss. She turned to look at Mo Xiaobai. After a moment, she looked away and silently lowered her head. Beside her, Wood Forest also widened his eyes. He looked at the points on the screen, then looked at Mo Xiaobai. He opened his mouth, but did not know what to say. The points were too high. Even without the Lava Hound's points, Mo Xiaobai's points were only 30,000 points lower than his. He was at the peak of 1 chakra, while he was at the peak of 2 chakras. The candidates who had just returned to register also looked at the points in a daze. They turned to look at Mo Xiaobai, their eyes flashing with shock and disbelief. The barbarian man, who was unwilling to accept the fact, suddenly realized that the gap between him and Mo Xiaobai was much wider than he had imagined. P.S. Thank you to Immortal King of Helplessness, Cold Qing, Wen Fu Hua, Book Friend 20170209010604798, Murong Feixiang, and Napoleon's Underwear for their tips. Thank you all. Chapter 72. After Mo Xiaobai's total points were registered, the results came to an end amidst the shock of the examinees. Su Du's gaze swept across the examinees as he said, "All right, the first cries trial will end here. The first place of the first prize trial is Mo Xiaobai. Second place, Yin Shui. Third place, Mu Sunlin. They are also the top 3 in the college entrance exams. The top 3,000 candidates will be able to enter Akatsuki Academy, Lumen Academy, and Spirit Heart Academy. The rest of the candidates will be able to enter the other top 10 academies. Hearing Su Du's words, the top 3,000 examinees all had excited smiles on their faces. On the other hand, most of the examinees below the top 3,000 had disappointed expressions on their faces. There were even some who could not help but cry. After working so hard for so long, wasn't it all for the 3 best academies in the empire? Who would have thought that it would all be for naught at the last minute? This feeling was too depressing. Mo Xiaobai looked at the first place on the list. That was his name. His heart beat rapidly and a smile appeared on his face. He even felt that it was unreal. A month ago, if someone had told him that he would be the top scorer in the college entrance exams, he would have thought that the person was messing with him. Now, he really was the top scorer. Indeed, Xiao Ran said that he would do well in the college entrance exams. Her words came true. Thinking of Xiao Ran, Mo Xiaobai's smile froze. Su Du looked at the candidates and took in their expressions. His expression did not change at all. Every first Ming trial, there would always be people who were happy and people who were sad. Reality was cruel. He continued, "All right, after half a month of first Ming trial, I'm sure everyone is tired. Go back to the hotel and rest. Mo Xiaobai, Yin Shui, Mu Forest, Lin Huan, you guys stay." Su Du called out the names of the top 10 candidates. The other candidates looked at Mo Xiaobai and the rest enviously. The top 10 in the first Ming trial were also the top 10 in the college entrance exams. The Empire would have given them generous rewards. Unfortunately, they did not enter the top 10. Everyone turned around and walked towards the square. Soon, only Mo Xiaobai's group of 10 and Su Du's group of experts were left in the Adventurers Guild's plaza. Su Du swept his gaze across the 10 people and grinned. "You guys are pretty good. You guys were able to obtain such a high score in such a difficult trial, especially student Mo Xiaobai." He glanced at Mo Xiaobai and nodded. Not bad indeed, whether in terms of strength or luck. Mo Xiaobai was a little embarrassed by the compliment. He smiled and said, "Senior Su, you flatter me." Su Do smiled. "All right, I'm sure you all know the reason why I kept you all here. The Empire's Parliament has generous rewards for the top 10 candidates." Mo Xiaobai and the others all had expectant looks on their faces, while Yin Shui, Mu Forest, and the others all had calm looks on their faces. In the top 10, most of the examinees came from well-off families, so they had seen quite a few good things. Su Do waved his right hand, and a total of 10 items appeared in the air. These items included origin skill crystals, equipment, weapons, and some items with special abilities. These items all flashed with light, and the worst was rare. There were 3 items that flashed with a purple light, indicating that they were rare items. Mo Xiaobai, choose one first. Mo Xiaobai walked forward and immediately eliminated the rare items, setting his gaze on the 3 rare items. Of these 3 items, one was an origin skill crystal, one was a crimson halberd, and the last was a special item. This special item was a circular insignia about 5 centimeters in diameter. It was completely white and neither gold nor wood, and there was a golden sword engraved on the insignia. Mo Xiaobai first looked at the origin skill crystal and asked, "Senior Su, can I take a look at this origin skill crystal first?" Su Do nodded. Of course. Mo Xiaobai took the origin skill crystal and placed it on his forehead, looking at its description. Then he put the origin skill crystal back with some disappointment. This was an origin skill called Frozen Heart. It could allow a person to obtain a stronger frost energy for a short period of time. First, one needed to have frost energy. Mo Xiaobai couldn't use it. Mo Xiaobai glanced at the crimson halberd. Su Do introduced, "This flaming halberd is a rare rank 2 heavenly cast weapon. It can greatly increase one's strength and endurance, and it also contains the power of flames. When origin power is channeled into the halberd, it can carry a certain amount of flame attacks. You can use it even if you don't have an innate talent for controlling flames." When Mo Xiaobai heard this, he was a bit tempted. Although he could still use the Demon Hound Spine, it was still a rare rank 1 heavenly cast weapon. It couldn't compare to a rare rank 2 heavenly cast weapon. Moreover, he was about to break through to rank 2. With this weapon, once he broke through to rank 2, his combat strength would greatly increase. However, he wasn't very familiar with using the halberd, so he needed to buy an origin skill crystal for the halberd. Mo Xiaobai didn't make a decision immediately. He looked at the third item, the white emblem. "What's this?" Su Do smiled and said, "The Holy Light Judgment emblem. It's very effective against demons. After pouring origin power into it, it can release an elementary Holy Light Judgment. As long as a demon doesn't exceed rank 3, they will be heavily injured." Hearing this, Mo Xiaobai's eyes widened. "It's that good?" He was pleasantly surprised and said without even thinking, I choose the Holy Light Judgment emblem. If it could be used by demons under rank 3, then with his strength, as long as he could find a rank 3 demon with a dazzling red glow, his gains wouldn't be any worse than the rank 2 flaming halberd, right? Haha, wise choice. Sudo grinned and waved his hand. The white emblem floated towards Mo Xiaobai. Mo Xiaobai caught the emblem and thanked Sudo with a smile. "Okay, Yin Shui, you choose." Mo Xiaobai walked back and brushed past Yin Shui. Just as Mo Xiaobai had guessed, Yin Shui didn't even think about it after looking at the Frozen Heart origin skill and directly chose the origin skill crystal. Wood Forest could only bitterly choose the flaming halberd that didn't suit him too well. However, it was still a rare rank 2 heavenly cast item. It wouldn't be a problem to sell it at the auction house or directly exchange it for a weapon. After Mo Xiaobai's group of 3 finished choosing, the other 7 also stepped forward to choose their own rewards. Although it was only a rare item, it was already quite good. Everyone's faces revealed a trace of a smile. After everyone had chosen their rewards, Sudo smiled and said, "Apart from rewards, there are also origin crystals. First place will receive 5,000 rank 2 origin crystals." Mo Xiaobai was delighted. He was rich. 5,000 rank 2 origin crystals were equivalent to 50,000 rank 1 origin crystals. His origin crystals were being used up too quickly, and he was almost out of them by now. With so many origin crystals, it should be enough for him to cultivate to the 3rd aperture, right? Mo Xiaobai happily accepted the small mountain of rank 2 origin crystals. Second place, for 1,000 rank 2 origin crystals. Yin Shui expressionlessly accepted the origin crystals as if she had been rewarded with $1. Third place, 3,000 rank 2 origin crystals. Wood Forest's expression was similar to Yin Shui's. He didn't seem to care at all. The 4th and 5th place received 2,000 rank 2 origin crystals, while the 6th to 10th place received 1,000. Very soon, Su Do finished distributing the origin crystals. He smiled and said, "Okay, the rewards have been distributed. As for the school selection, just report it in 3 days." After hearing Su Do's words, Mo Xiaobai's group was startled. They then turned to look at the experts beside them and nodded in understanding. Yes. Soon after, Mo Xiaobai's group left the Adventurers Guild's small plaza and walked toward the encampment's plaza. P.S. Apologies, the author has some matters to attend to today, so the update is a bit late. There's one more chapter tonight. Chapter 73. On the way, Mu Forest walked to Mo Xiaobai's side and patted Mo Xiaobai's shoulder with a smile. "Xiaobai, congratulations. I thought the top scorer would be me or Yin Shui. I didn't expect you to snatch it away." Mo Xiaobai smiled. "I didn't expect to become the top scorer either. It's just luck." Mu Forest. His mouth twitched as he looked at Mo Xiaobai enviously. "Your luck is too good." After a pause, Mu Forest asked curiously, "By the way, student Xiaobai, which school do you plan on going to?" Mo Xiaobai thought for a moment before shaking his head. "I'm not sure yet." Mu Forest nodded. "That's true. With our ranking, the big 3 will probably give us some rewards." Mo Xiaobai nodded. "We'll see when the time comes." Although the rewards from the big 3 might not be as good as the reward from the Empire, it was still better than nothing. Mo Xiaobai couldn't compare to Mu Forest and Yin Shui. He had plenty of resources. At this moment, Mo Xiaobai thought of something. By the way, do you know where I can buy some good body refining medicine? Or if you know some powerful medicine refiners? His breath of life was only at the first level. It would be difficult to raise it to the third level. The fastest way was to use body refining medicine, and the best was still the breath of life medicine. Mu Forest was a disciple of an aristocratic family. He should have some connections in this area. When Mu Sunlin heard this, for some reason, his face froze and his body instinctively trembled. Mo Xiaobai was puzzled. What's wrong? Mu Forest laughed dryly. Haha, nothing. I just thought of something from the past. He changed the topic and asked, why are you looking for a medicine refiner? Mo Xiaobai smiled and said, I need some medicine for my cultivation. Hearing Mo Xiaobai's words, Mu Forest was silent for a moment, then said, if we're talking about alchemists, I do know of a very powerful one. Mo Xiaobai's eyes lit up. The Mu Forest was a direct descendant of the Mu clan. If even he said that this alchemist was very powerful, then it would seem that he was really out of the ordinary. He hurriedly asked, where is that alchemist? What's his name? Seeing Mo Xiaobai's excited expression, Mu Forest's expression became a little strange. Xiaobai, don't be anxious. That alchemist has a strange personality. I can't be sure that she will definitely help you refine it. When Mo Xiaobai heard this, he did not take it to heart. Wasn't it normal for top-notch technical talents like alchemists and blacksmiths to have strange personalities? He smiled and said, it's fine. Tell me who it is first. I'll go ask when the time comes. Even if she doesn't help, it's not your fault. Mu Forest nodded. Cough, that alchemist is a fourth-year student at Akatsuki Academy. Mo Xiaobai's eyes widened, and he looked at Mu Forest strangely. A student? Are you kidding me? This did not match the image of a white-bearded grandpa in his mind. Why would I lie to you? Maybe she can't refine high-level medicine, but as long as she can refine low-level medicine, at least 50% of them are flawless. Mo Xiaobai's pupils contracted. Flawless? 50%? No wonder Mu Forest said that this alchemist was very powerful. This was no longer a question of whether she was powerful or not, right? She was a monster, right? What's his name? Mo Xiaobai was a little expectant. If it was this alchemist, he should have quite a few high-level body refining medicines, right? Maybe he could even refine the breath of life medicine. Mu Forest coughed dryly. Her name is Natsuki. Mo Xiaobai was taken aback, and his expression was a little strange. A woman? Wait, her surname is Mu? Mo Xiaobai's expression became even more strange. Mu Forest smiled. She's my sister. She's the genius alchemist of our Mu family. Mo Xiaobai, he smiled and said, since she's your sister, ask her to refine some medicine for me. Don't worry, I'll pay for it. Mu Forest's mouth twitched, and he shook his head. No, didn't I tell you? My sister has a very strange personality. It's useless for me to ask her. Don't push me into the fire pit. Mo Xiaobai saw the fear on Mu Forest's face, and his heart sank. He was a little worried. Then I'll be fine if I go, right? Mu Forest smiled. Don't worry. Although my sister has a strange personality, she won't force people to do anything. At most, she won't agree to help you. Mo Xiaobai nodded and relaxed. However, he felt that Mu Forest's smile was a little strange. Even so, Mo Xiaobai still wanted to go and take a look. Maybe he could get the breath of life medicine right away. If that didn't work, he could use other body refining medicines as a replacement first. If not, he could work hard to earn money and go to the big city's auction house to see if there were any. Mo Xiaobai smiled. Thanks, I'll go find your sister myself. Mu Forest nodded. Okay. As they spoke, they arrived at the encampment square. After passing through the portal, Mo Xiaobai and the rest returned to the Adventure Center of Planet Azure. The staff and guards in the Adventure Center were curious when they saw Mo Xiaobai and the rest. After all, they were in the top 10 this time. If they didn't die in the future, they would definitely be strong. The few of them walked out of the Adventure Center. The transport vehicle was already waiting outside. Mo Xiaobai realized that the top 10 candidates were not in the same hotel as him. He went to the transport vehicle, heading to Sichuan Hotel alone. As soon as he got on the vehicle, the candidates waiting in the vehicle all looked over with envy and curiosity. The girls looked at Mo Xiaobai with watery eyes. Some of them even wanted to get closer to him. Mo Xiaobai glanced at the vehicle and realized that Lu Xiaofei and the fat rabbit person were there too. The two of them had their heads lowered and didn't dare to look at Mo Xiaobai. Mo Xiaobai noticed that there was a seat beside them and walked over to sit down. As soon as he sat down, Lu Xiaofei and the fat rabbit person trembled and sweat dripped from their foreheads. The two of them fell silent and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Mo Xiaobai didn't mind. He leaned against the chair and closed his eyes to rest. The half a month of continuous hardship void domain trial had exhausted him physically and mentally. After Mo Xiaobai got on the vehicle, all the candidates had returned and the vehicle started moving. Along the way, the girls wanted to strike up a conversation with Mo Xiaobai. However, they realized that Mo Xiaobai's eyes were closed, so they had to give up. Soon, the vehicle arrived at Sichuan Hotel. Mo Xiaobai slowly opened his eyes. After resting for a while, he felt much better. At the entrance of Sichuan Hotel, many heads of education and the elders of the candidates were waiting anxiously. Among them was Head Lu. His hairstyle was still neat and tidy, but there was a hint of anxiety on his originally expressionless face. The candidates in the transport vehicle alighted one by one. After alighting, they were quickly pulled away by their elders and asked about the situation. Soon, Mo Xiaobai alighted from the vehicle. Head Lu's eyes lit up. He strode forward and grabbed Mo Xiaobai's shoulder to pull him away. He looked at Mo Xiaobai and said in a gentle voice, "You must be tired after so many days of trial, right? Let's go back first. I've already ordered some food. Have a good meal, then take a bath and sleep." Mo Xiaobai's heart warmed when he heard this. He nodded. "Thank you, Head Lu. Ha ha ha. You're welcome. I'm still waiting for you to bring honor to Pingxi Town." At this point, Head Lu looked at Mo Xiaobai anxiously and expectantly. "How was it? Did you pass? P.S. Thank you to Summer Palace, Prince Tianbao, Spud and Lil P, Too Much Tax, Too Little Sleep, and Heaven's Fate for their tips. Thank you all." Chapter 74. Mo Xiaobai looked at Mansion Head Lu's anxious expression and smiled to himself. He nodded. "Yes, I did." Mansion Head Lu's eyes widened slightly when he heard Mo Xiaobai's words. A bright smile appeared on his originally expressionless face. He was so excited that his face turned red. He patted Mo Xiaobai's shoulder hard. Good, good, good. It's good that you made it. Ha ha ha. He was all smiles. "Xiaobai, you've brought glory to Pingxi Town. Old Mo is so lucky to have a son like you." Mo Xiaobai looked at the excited Mansion Head Lu and coughed lightly. "Mansion Head Lu, I came in first place. I'm a top scorer." Mansion Head Lu held his breath when he heard this. He looked at Mo Xiaobai in a daze. The corner of his mouth twitched. What? What did you say?" He looked at Mo Xiaobai with a strange expression and thought to himself, could it be that he's so excited about getting into the big three that he's lost his mind? Mo Xiaobai didn't think much of it when he saw Mansion Head Lu's look of disbelief. After all, when he first entered the void domain, his cultivation was only at 1 apertured level 5. Now that he said he was the top scorer, even he wouldn't believe it if he was Mansion Head Lu. He smiled and said, "I'm really the top scorer. Mansion Head Lu, look at my cultivation now. I'm already at the peak of 1 apertured level." Mansion Head Lu came back to his senses when he heard Mo Xiaobai's words. He sensed Mo Xiaobai's cultivation and his eyes widened in shock. "You're really at the peak of 1 apertured level. How is this possible? It's only been half a month since you entered the blazing wilderness. How did you advance from 1 apertured level 5 to the peak of 1 apertured level?" Mo Xiaobai explained, "I was lucky. I found an origin fruit in the blazing wilderness. After eating it, I advanced to the peak of 1 apertured level." Mansion Head Lu, he was dumbfounded. How could that be? However, even if you've reached the pinnacle of 1 aperture, there are 2 super geniuses with 2 apertures among the candidates this time. How can you get first place? Mansion Head Lu still didn't believe him. "Are you kidding me? but to be able to get into one of the big three is indeed a pleasant surprise. When Mo Xiaobai saw how stubborn Mansion Head Lu was, he felt a little helpless. He didn't bother to explain. In any case, the college entrance exam rankings should be out soon. You'll know when the time comes. As the two of them spoke, they had already returned to their room. The table in the main hall was filled with delicious food. It was obvious that Residence Head Lu had prepared this for Mo Xiaobai. Head Lu smiled and patted Mo Xiaobai's shoulder. You've worked hard for so long. Have a good meal and then go and rest. After you choose your school, we'll go back and deliver this good news. Yes, Mo Xiaobai nodded. In the center of Yanggu City, in a suite on the top floor of Yanggu Hotel. The suite was very luxurious. The floor was covered with a soft, light red carpet. The carpet emitted a constant warm aura. All the furniture was made of Qilin wood, which was used to clear one's mind. The crystal chandelier on the ceiling was like a lighthouse, flashing with a light white glow. This was the light produced by the lightstone powder, which could eliminate fatigue. At this moment, Mu Forest had already taken a bath and changed into a set of home clothes made of green silk. His green hair was still slightly wet. His face was fair and delicate, and he looked incomparably handsome. He leaned against the chair, holding a white, translucent communication crystal in his hand. His face was a little nervous. At this moment, the white light in the communication crystal flashed. Mu Forest instinctively tensed his body and sat up straight. He took a deep breath and then merged his origin power into the crystal. Suddenly, a somewhat lazy and soft voice came from the crystal. Forest, how was the trial? Mu Forest coughed softly and said, I got 3rd place. Oh, the person on the other end of the communication crystal did not seem to care about Mu Forest's ranking at all. The previous question seemed to be just a casual one. Mu Forest could not help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Sister, aren't you going to ask me who got 1st and 2nd place? Then who got 1st and 2nd place? The lazy and soft voice on the other end sounded a little hollow, as if she was in a trance. Mu Forest was speechless. He rubbed his forehead helplessly. His sister must be refining medicine again. He did not mind and said, the 2nd place is Yin Shui, the eldest daughter of the Yin clan. The 1st place is a student from Pingxi town. Hearing this, the lazy and soft voice seemed to fluctuate a little. At the same time, there was an explosion and the sound of bottles breaking. Mu Forest seemed to be used to this and did not say anything. After a moment, the lazy and soft voice sounded again. Failed again. The 1st place this time is from a town? Yes. Mu Forest nodded. At this point, Mu Forest thought of something and had a strange expression on his face. Mo Xiaobai's luck is really amazing. Luck. The lazy, soft, and somewhat hollow voice sounded again. Yes, sister, you don't know. When I just came back, I looked up that guy's information. When he first entered the blazing wilderness, he was only at 1 aperture level 5. Then, he found a void treasure in the blazing wilderness. There was an origin fruit inside, and he immediately soared to the peak of 1 aperture level. Don't you think it's ridiculous? After Mu Forest finished speaking, there was another explosion on the other end. After a moment, the lazy and soft voice sounded again. It is quite ridiculous. That's not even the most ridiculous thing. The most ridiculous thing was that we met 3 magical beast leaders at the very end. Yin Shui, that guy, and I each held one of them back. In the end, there was a sudden earthquake. The magical beast leader that was chasing that guy actually stepped into a crack and broke all the bones in its body. It couldn't even move and was then killed by that guy. Speaking of this, Mu Forest was still a little dumbfounded. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would have thought it was a joke. If it wasn't for the points of that magical beast leader, Yin Shui would have been 1st this time. That lazy and soft voice finally had a hint of surprise in it. This luck is indeed good, right? I think so too. It's too much. Mu Forest seemed to have found a bosom friend. Then he paused. However, that guy is very strong. If we were the same level, I might not be his match. You've made me curious. A voice sounded from the other end of the communication crystal. When Mu Simlin heard this, he smiled and said, That's right, big sister, little White is planning to find an alchemist to refine medicine for him. I told him about you. Maybe he will look for you after some time. Medicine refinement? The voice on the other end of the communication crystal raised a few notches. Then I'm looking forward to it. It was as if the owner of the voice on the other end of the communication was in high spirits at the mention of medicine refinement. Hearing this excited voice, Move Forest instinctively felt his scalp go numb. Big sister, take it easy. Shout by save your little brother's life. If you can, it's best if you help him for free. For free? We'll talk about it when the time comes. The lazy and soft voice sounded again. Move Forest. He secretly prayed for Xiao by Mo in his heart. By the way, when are you coming to Akatsuki? At this moment, the voice on the other end of the communication crystal sounded again, interrupting Move Forest's prayer. The hair on his back stood up, and there was a hint of nervousness on his face. Cold sweat appeared on his forehead. That, big sister, I've chosen the Spiritual Heart Academy. Why? The lazy and soft voice was a little puzzled. Because the Spiritual Heart Academy has a void territory in the Canyon of Storms. I think that's more suitable for me. The lazy and soft voice was silent for a moment, then nodded. All right then. The nervousness on Move Forest's face slowly disappeared, and he heaved a sigh of relief. Chapter 75. In the center of Yanggu City, on the top floor of a shopping mall not far from Yanggu Hotel, Yin Shui opened the door to her room and walked in. After closing the door, she leaned against the door and stared blankly into space. An expression of disappointment and indignation gradually appeared on her expressionless face. Her eyes reddened as she bit her lip and murmured to herself, I actually lost. The Yin family had placed high hopes on her ever since she was a child, but she had actually lost to a classmate from a small town. Yin Shui felt a throbbing pain in her stomach, and her entire body felt weak and powerless. She slowly slid down the door and sat down on the ground, burying her face in her arms. The atmosphere in the room became silent. Right at this moment, there was a knock on the door. Yin Shui's body trembled as she abruptly raised her head. She rubbed her reddened eyes and heaved a sigh of relief to calm herself down before standing up and opening the door. Outside the door stood a rabbit woman with long black hair. This rabbit woman appeared to be around 30 years of age. Her temperament was graceful and mature, and she had a pair of black rabbit ears on her head. After seeing the rabbit-human girl, Yin Shui's eyes widened. Her usually expressionless face seemed to be blooming with sunshine as she revealed a bright smile. Grandma, what are you doing here? She called out softly before throwing herself into the rabbit woman's arms like a little girl. This was Yin Shui's grandmother, Gao Yueling. Gao Yueling's deep black eyes seemed to be filled with age. She gently hugged Yin Shui and stroked Yin Shui's short hair with a benevolent smile on her face. My little Shui's trial has ended today, so as her grandmother, I have to come and visit, right? This trial lasted for half a month, so you must be tired, right? My little Shui has worked hard. Yin Shui giggled. That's nothing. Gao Yueling laughed heartily. How is it? My little Shui should be stronger than that kid from the Mu family, so she should be number one, right? Hearing Gao Yueling's words, the smile on Yin Shui's face froze and her body trembled. Gao Yueling sensed Yin Shui's abnormality, and a trace of surprise flashed across her eyes. Then, she smiled and continued, let's go in first. Today, Grandma made you your favorite strawberry cake. The two of them entered the room. On one side of the hall was a huge floor-to-ceiling window. Sunlight shone in through the window, making the air seem to shimmer with light. An ice blue coffee table was placed in the huge living room. The coffee table seemed to be overflowing with cold air. Beside the coffee table was a sofa of the same color. The two of them sat down on the sofa. Yin Shui watched as Gao Yueling took out a pink cake and fiddled with it. She looked a little disappointed. Grandma, I only got second place this time. When Gao Yueling heard Yin Shui's words, she was not surprised at all. She cut a small piece of cake and handed it to Yin Shui. She still had a gentle smile on her face. Grandma guessed it. You little girl, are you crying? When Yin Shui saw Gao Yueling smile, she pursed her lips and took a small bite of the cake. Then she said softly, "I'm not crying." Gao Yueling did not mind. She smiled and said, "Come and tell Grandma. Is that kid from the Mu family better than our Xiao Shui?" When Yin Shui heard this, she put down the cake in her hand and said softly, "It's not Mu Forest." Huh? When she heard this, Gao Yueling was taken aback. She was a little confused. This time, the only candidates with 2 apertures are the 2 of you, right? Yin Shui's face reddened in embarrassment. The first place is a guy at the peak of 1 aperture. Gao Yueling was speechless. She looked at Yin Shui with a strange expression. Then, she asked curiously, "What's going on? Is he a genius?" When Yin Shui heard this, she recalled Mo Xiaobai's appearance. She said unhappily, "He's not a genius. It's just that guy's luck is inhuman." As she said this, she told Gao Yueling about the previous situation as if she was complaining. After that, she said with some grievance, "If it wasn't for the points of the 2nd-level demonic beast at the end, the first place would have been mine." When Gao Yueling saw Yin Shui's aggrieved look, she smiled kindly and rubbed Yin Shui's short hair. Then, she said, "Grandma didn't expect that there would be someone with such good luck. Moreover, even our Xiao Shui was defeated." When Yin Shui heard this, her eyes lit up. She looked determined. "I'll get first place next time." As she said this, she took a big bite of the cake. The corner of her mouth was stained with cream. Gao Yueling looked at Yin Shui's determined look and shook her head slightly. Then, she smiled and said, You're giving yourself too much pressure. Grandma just wants you to cultivate normally and live a good life." As she said this, she sighed softly. "Your grandfather and parents have high expectations of you." The higher the expectations of Yin Shui, the greater the pressure on Yin Shui. When Yin Shui heard this, she paused and shook her head. "I'm a member of the Yin family. How can I embarrass you?" Gao Yueling was momentarily speechless. Then she said softly, "By the way, I'm afraid your grandfather won't be able to make it back in time for your birthday. There are strange movements in the Icebone Abyss again. He has to stand guard there." Yin Shui was taken aback. She was a little disappointed, but she still nodded. "Oh, also, there are signs of a blood fiend riot in the Blood Wilderness. The Desolate Blood Army is under a lot of pressure. Your father and mother also have to stand guard at the Desolate Blood Army." When she heard this, Yin Shui's eyes widened. "A blood fiend riot? Isn't that?" Gao Yueling's expression was grave. She nodded. The blood tide is coming. It should be in the next few years." Yin Shui's heart sank. Every blood tide was a disaster, and the Desolate Blood Army would suffer heavy casualties during each blood tide. Yin Shui's expression was grave as she said firmly, "I have to cultivate properly. When I enter the Blood Wilderness in the future, I have to find out what caused the blood tide." Gao Yueling patted Yin Shui's head with a smile. "Cultivate properly, but you have to take care of your body. Let's go out for a stroll on your birthday. It'll be a good chance for you to relax." Yin Shui stuck out her tongue. "Okay, Grandma. I'm going to catch dolls." "No problem." At this point, the corners of Gao Yueling's mouth curled up, revealing a trace of smile. "But speaking of which, I'm quite interested in that little fellow called Mo Xiaobai. This is the first time our Xiao Shui has lost to a boy." Yin Shui's body stiffened. "Grandma, what are you thinking?" "Huh?" After Mo Xiaobai had a good meal, he went back to his room and fell asleep. He hadn't slept well for the past half a month. Fortunately, he was still young. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to take it. When he woke up, Mo Xiaobai looked at the time and realized that it was already the next morning. He stretched his back and felt his whole body relax. Mo Xiaobai walked out of his room. Before he could react, Manorhead Lu ran to his side and grabbed his shoulder with an extremely excited expression. "Xiaobai, you're first place. You're the top scorer." Manorhead Lu's voice was trembling. Seeing how excited Manorhead Lu was, Mo Xiaobai rolled his eyes speechlessly. "I already told you yesterday." In the end, Manorhead Lu still didn't believe him yesterday. Manorhead Lu didn't care about Mo Xiaobai's ridicule at all. He said excitedly, "You're the top scorer. Xiaobai, you're amazing. You've really brought honor to Pingxi Town. Your parents will definitely be very happy to hear this news." Although Mo Xiaobai knew that Manorhead Lu would be excited, he didn't expect him to be this excited. Seeing Manorhead Lu's flushed face, Mo Xiaobai felt a headache coming on. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Manorhead Lu was pulled back to reality. He realized that he had lost his composure. He coughed awkwardly, stood up straight, and tidied up his appearance. Maybe a teacher from the Big Three is looking for you. I'll go open the door. With that, he dashed towards the door, his footsteps light and quick. Chapter 76. Soon enough, Head Lu walked in with a bald man. Mo Xiaobai had seen this bald man yesterday. He was one of the people in charge of the first cries trials. The moment the bald man saw Mo Xiaobai, the corners of his mouth cracked open into a smile. The hideous scar on his face wriggled like a centipede. Student Mo Xiaobai, I'm a teacher from Lumen Academy, Wang Leking. Congratulations on becoming the top scorer of this year's college entrance exam. Mo Xiaobai hurriedly said, Thank you, Teacher Wang. You haven't decided which academy to go to, right? Not yet. Wang Leking nodded and smiled. I won't say anything else. Student Mo Xiaobai, I've just applied for a scholarship for you. If you choose Lumen Academy, you'll receive 30,000 academic credits in one go. I can see that you have a strong physical talent. There are many teachers in our academy with physical talents, and I'm one of them. I think our academy is the most suitable for you. After hearing about the scholarship, Head Lu's eyes widened in shock. 30,000 academic credits? That high? Wang Leking grinned. Student Mo Xiaobai is worthy of this scholarship. Head Lu glanced at Mo Xiaobai. Just this amount of academic credits was enough to let him feel the weight of Mo Xiaobai's title as the top scorer. Mo Xiaobai asked curiously, What are academic credits? He hadn't entered an advanced Origin Academy yet, so he didn't know what academic credits were used for. Wang Leking explained, academic credits have a wide range of uses in the academy. Students need academic credits to trade with each other, to buy items from the academy, to use the academy's training facilities, to consult teachers individually, etc. Without academic credits, it would be difficult to move around in the Origin Academy. Academic credits are equivalent to currency in the Origin Academy. Mo Xiaobai was surprised. It's that important? Manorhead Lu nodded. Yes, the credit system of all the Origin Power Academies is linked together. 30,000 credits is equivalent to 30,000 Origin crystals. Moreover, it's even more precious than Origin crystals. I remember I didn't even obtain 30,000 credits when I was in my third year. My grades back then were considered above average in our academy. Comparisons were odious indeed. Mansion Head Lu's heart ached. When Wang Lekang heard Mansion Head Lu's sad words, the corners of his mouth couldn't help twitching. He smiled and said, Student Mo Xiaobai, I'm sure you've heard Brother Lu's words. This is the sincerity of the Lumen Academy. Mo Xiaobai was slightly tempted. According to Master Lu and Teacher Wang's explanation, although this scholarship couldn't be compared to the prize given to the top scorer of the college entrance examination, it wasn't bad either. However, he did not make a choice on the spot. The teachers from the other two academies hadn't arrived yet, so he decided to wait a little longer. At the thought of this, Mo Xiaobai smiled at Wang Lekang and said, Teacher, can I think about it first before making a decision? Wang Leking grinned. No problem, you can think about it first. I won't disturb you then. Teacher, I'll send you out. After sending Wang Leking off, Mansion Head Lu looked at Mo Xiaobai excitedly. Xiaobai, it seems you're highly valued by the Lumen Academy. If possible, you should choose Lumen when the time comes. There's also Meteor Valley and Reverend Ming Mountain Range. It's said that they're all high-grade void domains and produce items suitable for physical prodigies. It's quite suitable for you. Mo Xiaobai saw Mansion Head Lu's expression and felt that he was even more excited than himself. He smiled and said, Min, don't worry Mansion Head Lu, I know what to do. Let's see how the other two academies are doing. Because the selection was just a few days away, the teachers from the other three academies were also quite anxious. Not long after, the second teacher came. This time, it was the mermaid teacher that Mo Xiaobai was familiar with. She had gray curly hair and obvious wrinkles on her head. The mermaid teacher walked in and smiled warmly at Emo Xiaobai. Emo Xiaobai, I knew you were extraordinary the last time I saw you, but I didn't expect you to surpass the two chakra students Yin Shui and Mu Lin to become the top scholar. You really surprised me. Teacher, you flatter me. Emo Xiaobai was a little embarrassed. Let me introduce myself. I'm a teacher from the Spiritual Heart Academy. Lin Jun then, he looked around. Have the other teachers been here? Mr. Wang from the Lumen Academy has already been here. Lin Jun heard this and nodded lightly. He didn't ask about the rewards from the Lumen Academy to avoid making things awkward. He smiled and said, since Mr. Wang has already been here, I'll tell you about the scholarship from the Spiritual Heart Academy. If you choose our Spiritual Heart Academy, we will give you a one-time scholarship of 20,000 credits. At the same time, as long as you can maintain the first place in your grade, you will receive an additional 15,000 credits as a reward. You will also receive 3 free chances to enter Storm Canyon. The Canyon of Storms is the void territory of the Spiritual Heart Academy. You need 1,000 credits to enter. Hearing this, Emo Xiaobai calculated in his heart. If he could maintain first place in the school year test, then wouldn't he be able to obtain 38,000 credits? This was more worth it than staying in the Lumen Academy. Of course, the Lumen Academy gave him the scholarship directly, and there was no risk. If he chose the Spiritual Heart Academy and didn't get first place in the year, he would only be left with 20,000 credits. That would be a huge loss. Emo Xiaobai still didn't make a choice. After exchanging some pleasantries with Mr. Lin Jun, he sent him out. Soon, the teacher from the Akatsuki Academy arrived. It was the gray-haired old elf who always had a smile on his face. Emo Xiaobai, I'm a teacher from the Akatsuki Academy, Lu Jingshan. Hello, Mr. Lu. The old elf nodded and smiled. I'm sure the teachers from the other 2 academies have already been here. Then I won't beat around the bush. This time, the scholarship from the Akatsuki Academy is like this. As long as you choose to join the Akatsuki Academy, you will receive 20,000 credits and a free chance to enter the Akatsuki Forest. If you obtain first place in the year, you will receive another 20,000 credits and a free chance to enter the Akatsuki Forest. The Akatsuki Forest is our Akatsuki Academy's void domain. There are many items that can be used by geniuses with physical talents. Each entry will cost 1,500 credits. Hearing this, Emo Xiaobai calculated in his mind. If he obtained first place in the year, then his reward would be 43,000 credits. That was 5,000 credits, more than a scholarship from the Spirit Heart Academy. Furthermore, with his light, the reward from entering the Akatsuki Forest would be more than just 1,500 credits, right? The real reward should be even higher. Finally, Emo Xiaobai remembered what Mu Shui had said in the forest. His genius pharmacist's sister seemed to be in the Akatsuki Academy. For him, increasing the level of his breath of life was something that he should focus on at the moment. He didn't think for long. He raised his head and smiled at Lu Jingshan. Mr. Lu, I've decided. I choose the Akatsuki Academy. Hearing Emo Xiaobai's decisive words, Lu Jingshan was stunned. Are you sure? You don't want to reconsider? Emo Xiaobai nodded. I'm sure. Lu Jingshan smiled. Good, then I'll help you apply. Okay. Then I won't disturb you. See you at school. Head Lu hurriedly stood up. We'll see you out. After seeing Lu Jingshan off, Head Lu excitedly patted Emo Xiaobai's shoulder. He was silent for a moment, then sighed softly. The new generation excels the old. I didn't think that you would actually get into the Akatsuki Academy, and even get such a generous scholarship. Emo Xiaobai, was Head Lu originally so unconfident in him? Emo Xiaobai felt a little sad. Head Lu smiled. Okay, since you've chosen a school, let's pack up and prepare to go back. The college entrance exam results will probably be released in a few days. Let's bring this good news back. Okay. Emo Xiaobai nodded. This was the first time he had been away from home for so long. He was a little homesick.